and you realize that, thousands and thousands of people are listening, right? Maybe even millions
and millions
are listening.
That just sounded like I was literally dying. No, I don't know. I got nothing. I think it's because if I try to do like the normal, super excited to be here, how awesome is my job, let's have a day voice, what ends up happening is it falls apart on me. And so what you get is a return of seductive, sultry Rob Brown.
Hey, we've got a big week ahead of us. You can't.
We got a huge week ahead of us.
Yeah, we do.
We got a huge week ahead of us. A lot of stuff going on that we need to get to. I will tell you in advance, and at this point, I am confident and comfortable enough to say that after the show is over today at 10:30, the Great One and I will be joined on a stream that we will record and play back for you. I don't know, maybe it'll be Fight Club tomorrow. Maybe it'll get its own segment. We'll see how good it is. We'll be joined.
I'm good with it being Fight Club because that's what it is.
Strong possibility. Yeah. But again, maybe it'll be its own thing. We'll see. We will be joined today by the longest reigning, and soon to be first, second, and now fourth U.S. Women's American champion, the world's greatest living American from Canada, Chelsea Green.
Yeah, you should not.
I know. Do you understand? I have been looking forward to doing that, to introduce her all day, and now I'm like, nope, can't do that.
Yeah, I don't. That's cringe.
Can't do that.
Yeah.
Here's what I did do for those of you that joined the stream.
Maybe we could get a female. Maybe there'll be a female in the building down the hall that we could just get to come and do that.
It's not the same.
Just why not?
It's not the same because the humor is in a 40-year-old fat, out of shape white guy doing it. That's where the humor is.
Stop with the fat stuff.
Okay, fat but less fat than he used to be.
Okay.
40-year-old mediocre white dude doing it. That's the comedy. There's no comedy in having a girl do the girl's introduction for the girl. Like, the comedy is in my lazy behind doing it. So we don't have that, which is terrible.
All right, we find a guy down the hall to come in and do it.
Just get Fat Boy to come do it. That'll be hilarious. We will talk to Chelsea Green, who does have a match coming up against Julia to reclaim her U.S. title. Women's U.S. title. Excited to talk to her at 10:30. And then yesterday we found out, and this one I shan't jinx yet because in-studio interviews have been largely good, but we've had a couple that...
the way it's confirmed, I think
we're good.
I think because of who it came from, yeah.
Okay. Joining us...
That means she's going to be in the building other places?
Yeah.
And we get her slotted for there?
We've had a couple of spots here and there where we've had stuff confirmed and then it kind of bailed out on us for whatever reason.
Well, we can't physically go, because she'll beat us both up.
Ladies and gentlemen, joining us Friday live on the show at 8 a.m., Jade Cargill will be here as well.
I think you need to address her by her now title.
I got to tell you, I'm terrified of Jade Cargill, just as a...
The storm will be coming to the studio.
Yeah. I hope I'm good enough. I hope I'm back to normal enough at that point that at least I can hit that intro, We'll see. We'll see when we get there. Jade Cargill will be in studio coming up at 8 a.m. on Friday. We will record a segment with WWE superstar Chelsea Green coming up at 10:30 today. We will replay that interview for you live, or not live, obviously recorded.
Well, we'll replay it live.
We will replay the recorded interview live tomorrow.
And it's because SmackDown is coming to the Well this Friday.
It sure is. WWE SmackDown Friday night, Bon Score Wellness Arena, and I'm pretty pumped about it. I'm pretty pumped to the point that, I can't even go for that right now. I'm pretty pumped because, and this has never been a thing for me.
What?
But yesterday I got a text from someone connected to the show, and they said, "Are you coming on Friday?" And I said, I'm up in the air about it, probably, but also maybe not. I don't know yet. And they said, "Did you buy a ticket yet?" And I said, no, to keep it honest with you, I was going to wait until the day of the show to see if the price came down a little bit. And this individual wrote me back and said, "You want to sit on the floor as a seat filler?" And I said, yeah.
Wow, I do
suck.
I do want to do that.
If it makes you feel better, I do have to go to the show by myself to pull that off.
Wow.
So I got to sit on the floor by myself, but it's free
Yeah,
ticket and I'll be a floor filler.
It's also
of seat filler.
you. I mean, you don't care to go anywhere by yourself. It's not a.
Unless it's free and it's wrestling.
No. I mean, you're fine with doing it.
You mean like
if
I don't
I
care
were
that I have to?
offered such a thing, I would have given it to you because I'm not going by myself.
Yeah, I got a thing and I'm not giving it to you. Sorry. It's not that I don't love you. It's that you wouldn't go by yourself and I will. So
I'm glad I gave you an out.
That's the only reason.
The way to fight for me, because it could have been the show there.
I genuinely asked because it wasn't just you. I was asking for Joe would be and a couple of other of my wrestling
who cares
buddies.
about them? I'm talking about the show. I'm not talking about stuff outside.
I asked for multiple. It turns out this person does not care about the show. They just know me personally. This is not anybody connected to the radio. It's just a friend, just a person I happen to know through some professional.
Okay,
connections.
so this is not WWE.
Nope, this is not from the company, and this is not from anybody connected.
All right,
to it.
you got this because you're you.
Yes,
way to go, dude.
Yes. So anyway, rock the shirt and tie today.
I think it's
it's gratuitous. I'm very aware.
I want to see how it goes because I'm not sure it's going to go the way you think it will.
We're going to find out. I am.
If it does not go the way you think it will, don't.
I won't be hurt.
Don't doubt for a second that I'm not going to have fun with it.
I'll understand. I plan on asking Chelsea Green today if it is possible for me to become either the first male member of or an honorary member of the Secret Service. And I'm very much open to the answer to that, to at least honorary. I'll take honorary. I would take honorary member of the Secret Service. We'll find out if I get in or not. We'll play that for you tomorrow. In the meantime, we've got a gazillion and a half other things that we have to talk about on the radio program today. The first college football playoff rankings are out. The Ohio State Buckeyes will hold on to spot number 1, seed number 1 in the bracket. The Indiana Hoosiers are number 2. Texas A&M, the Aggies at 3. Alabama at number 4. If the season was to end today, those 4 teams would receive a first-round bye. The 5 seed belongs to the Georgia Bulldogs. The 6 seed to the Ole Miss Running Rebels. At number 7, the BYU Cougars. At number 8, the Texas Tech Red Raiders. The Oregon Ducks are number 9. Number 10, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Number 11, Virginia. Interestingly enough, Oklahoma is number 12. But they would not be in today because remember, while we are straight seeding now, the 5 highest rated conference champions still get in. Right now, that is Memphis. Memphis is ranked in the AP poll. Memphis is unranked in the college football playoff rankings. However, it doesn't matter. It's the highest ranked 5 conference champs. You could be ranked number 110. If you are conference champion number 5, you get in. As Memphis is outside of the top 12, Memphis will slide into slot number 12, and that would replace the currently ranked number 12 Oklahoma Sooners.
So I haven't heard any ACC. Maybe I missed that. Have you said an ACC team?
I have not said
okay.
an ACC team.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
No. That's bullcrap. Virginia's number 11. Just like we all drew up Tony Elliott and the Virginia Cavaliers are today a playoff team.
Are they leading the ACC right now?
Are they leading the ACC?
I mean, if the ACC championship were to happen right now, who are the 2 teams in it?
The 2 teams that would get into the ACC championship if it was today would indeed be the number 14 ranked Virginia Cavaliers, who are perfect in conference, and still the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, who are 5-1, with their most recent week being their only blemish, a loss to the annual Dave Doraning that happens to, like, Dave Doran gets to, I don't know if he made some sort of deal with the college football devil. Right, I assume there's college football gods and there's a college football devil. I assume he made a deal with the college football devil in return for something that says he annually gets to pull one upset over a top 10 team to keep his job, because he might have done that with the win over Georgia Tech. But right now today, the Cavs and the Yellow Jackets, and to keep it a buck with you, if the season was to end today and that was the ACC title game, that's a college football playoff eliminator right now. Now, that is right now. That could change because with Virginia at number 11, the teams ahead of them, number 10, Notre Dame, number 9, Oregon, 8, Texas Tech, number 7, BYU. If 2 or 3 of those teams lose, it could be a theoretical possibility, again, if it ended today, that Georgia Tech beats Virginia Tech, They become the ACC champ. They punch their ticket. And Virginia, assuming that the Cavaliers were still a one-loss football team in the regular season, as they are 8-1 overall. If they were 11-1 in the regular season, 11-2 with their second loss being to Georgia Tech in the title game, it is theoretically possible that between here and the end of the year, Virginia goes from 11 up to like 6, 7, and then maybe they could hold on, Sloopy, hang on, and just like eke into the 12 spot like SMU did last year with the loss to Clemson. Now, the question mark to that point is going to be, is there any level of sense of obligation from the College Football Playoff Selection Committee to get 2 ACC teams in? Is there any level of obligation from the College Football Selection Committee to ensure that any conference has more than one team? Any of the Power 4 conferences have more than one team? You've got a couple from the Big 12. The ACC right now has one. So if it played out that way, would they be willing to say, all right, you got 2 losses, whether you're Georgia Tech or Virginia, you got 2 losses, and your only loss in that place is to the ACC champ and to a mutual loss, because they both lost to NC State, a mutual loss to NC State. That's maybe not enough to separate the two of you overall. So the ACC champ is going to go in, and we will hold the 12 spot for, or maybe the 11 spot for the second place team in the ACC as an 11-2 team, but 1 loss is in the conference title game. Because remember, it has been said that if you do not play on conference championship weekend, then you cannot improve your positioning in the rankings. If you play on conference championship weekend, you can improve your standings with a conference championship win, and you can hurt your standings with a conference championship loss. But they are not going to do so, or at least this is what the College Football Playoff Committee has said in years gone by. They are not going to do so to the detriment of a team that participates in and loses their college football playoff game by dropping them significantly behind a team that did not make their conference championship game. Is that true? Will they stick to that? I don't know. We don't know. We can't know until it all happens. We'll find out. But as it stands right now, the 4 teams that are on the bye would be Ohio State, number 1, Indiana 2, Texas A&M in 3, and Alabama at number 4. If this was set up to be a bracket today, this is how the bracket would look. In round number 1, Memphis would play Georgia in your 12-5 matchup. The winner of that matchup would take on number 4 Alabama. This one is very interesting. You will recall that last year, going into the playoffs, the Oregon Ducks were a consensus number 1 overall seed. You will remember that last year, Ohio State checked in at number 9 in the college football, number 8 in the college football playoff rankings, faced off with the number 9 team and built up a head of steam. Ohio State was looked at as a very good football team. Don't know if they've got it to beat the Ducks. Well, flip it on its head this year, because this year, instead of like last year when Oregon entered as consensus number 1, that's where the Buckeyes are going. And instead of entering in the 8-9 game, as the Buckeyes did last year, with a lot of questions of, I don't know if they've got it in them, that's where the Ducks are this year. The Oregon-Ohio State round 2 matchup, assuming, which I don't think you should, that Oregon got by Texas Tech, the second round matchup would be the same as the second round matchup for these 2 teams last year, except the circumstances are 180 degrees from each other. Last year, Oregon was consensus number 1, and the Buckeyes were the plucky little underdog coming out of the lower seeded first round game. This year, Ohio State is consensus number 1, and Oregon are the plucky little underdogs coming out of the 8-9 game.
Ohio State was ranked in the top 3. I can't remember where, going into the last week of the season, and they lost to Michigan. That's why they dropped as far as they did. They were up there in with the opportunity for a bye, the opportunity to play for the Big Ten championship. So a lot of things can change between here and there, but they weren't plucky. They were one or near number one the entire season last year, and they screwed up at the end of the year, and it messed them up that they were able to come back and win the championship. Plucky is not what I would.
While I may or may not have been being mildly facetious for the purpose of hyping up an interesting round 2 matchup, I will say, at least in my circle, most people picked Oregon in that game. Oregon was a wagon at that point.
Yeah, everyone around here hates Ohio State, though. So there's that.
That's why I said in my circle.
Right.
When I'm talking about hosting nationally syndicated shows.
Okay, well, I was thinking your circle, all your Clemson friends.
No. Yes, all my Clemson friends.
You have a bunch of those.
Nationally.
Act like you don't have you do, and that's fine. I mean,
of course I have Clemson
we're
friends.
surrounded by them.
A bunch of South Carolina fans too.
You have a bunch. I think you have more Clemson friends, but that's fine.
So last year, when I was on the college football circuit, making my rounds on podcasts and nationally syndicated shows breaking down the playoffs, most everybody was picking the Buckeyes in that spot the Ducks in that spot because they were a wagon, without a doubt. This year, Ohio State's the wagon, and Oregon is in the role of a really good team that made a mistake and took an L to a good but team that nobody really thought should have won that game in Indiana. I don't think that's the case. That's why they're ranked second overall, but you get the point. If the playoffs started today, your 6-11 matchup would be the Virginia Cavaliers in the 11 spot taking on the Ole Miss Running Rebels in the 6 spot. That would lead to a matchup with Texas A&M, and your 10-7 game would be a religious bowl. Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, taking on the BYU Cougars. The winner of that game would move on to take the 2 seed Indiana. So that's what a bracket would look like today.
Versus Catholics?
Yeah, the Catholics versus the Mormons, man. It would be
very
actually,
civil,
I gotta tell you,
I
I think that game would kick ass, to be honest with you. I think that game would kick ass because you've got 2 of the best running teams in football right there. That game might take 10 minutes. That game might take 10 minutes because it's just going to be 50 runs apiece on both sides.
You said 50. I was thinking 50 dudes with 100 wives and just.
I mean,
it's a Mormon thing. It's just,
Taysom Hill gave me BYU. I shall say nothing. Thank you for thank you for young Taysom Hill. We're now in a weird spot. All right.
He's still one of the better guys on your team. I don't know what that says about your team, but I mean,
Not much, Bob. Not much, Bob. I'll tell you what, can we get Dale in here before we run to the break since Dale was kind enough to open us up with a phone call? Dale, welcome back to the show, big dog. Good to have you, brother.
Man of the people, how are you?
Good, buddy.
Hey, I got a question for Lonzo. As my wife is a big Buckeye fan, she posed this question, and I got her answer, and I just want to know how you feel about this. Would you, as a Buckeye fan, take the loss to Michigan and guarantee you a Big Ten conference championship, or would you want to beat Michigan and then lose the Big Ten championship game?
That's a familiar question.
Yeah, here's the thing. I was born and raised in the shadow of downtown Columbus.
Oh, so dramatic.
A bike ride away from Ohio State. I want to win a national championship because I'm realistic, and there are a lot of other people out there.
I didn't say national championship.
Oh, you said Big Ten championship. Big Ten.
Championship.
Yeah, I don't care about the Big Ten conference championship. If you're still like last year, didn't win the Big Ten, didn't beat Michigan either. But if in that scenario, it requires listening on my part, which obviously I did not do. In that scenario, I'd rather beat Michigan than win the Big Ten.
I find listening to be something very difficult with Buckeye fans because my wife never listens to me either.
And guess what? Listening is part of my job.
Boy, we're all in trouble.
Yes, we are.
Dale, thank you very much, brother. Good to talk to you this morning. We had a whole conversation about that last year. We had 2.
Yeah, but national championship was involved last year. That's what threw me off. I didn't hear the Big Ten part.
Last year we got into 2 mind-numbing conversations for me about the Buckeyes. The first was Lonzo's take that a not insignificant, perhaps majority of the Buckeye fan base would rather beat Michigan, like they would rather be guaranteed a Michigan win and have a question mark at Natty, not conference, Natty, than the opposite way around. Take an L to Michigan, but be guaranteed a Natty. Like, it blew my mind. And the second, obviously, was The number of people who said, doesn't matter if he finishes 11-1, doesn't matter if he's a national championship participant or even winner. If Ryan Day was to drop X amount of games consecutively to Michigan, they'd run him out of Columbus. And I thought that's one of the most asinine takes I've ever heard. And then as I ran to my college football circuit, I started asking that question to just about anyone that had connections to Ohio State University. And a majority of them were like, I don't feel that way, but I know a lot of Buckeyes who do. And it blew my mind.
Wait do you see what will happen this year? And it shouldn't matter that much if they were to lose to Michigan again.
Boy, howdy. We're going to talk a lot of college football today. The college football playoff rankings are out. We also had the NFL trade deadline come and pass yesterday. Flurry of moves.
How about them Cowboys?
How about them Cowboys? They go to get themselves a washed-up defensive tackle, and they're going to do their best to sell you on it being the greatest move of all time.
Downplay it. So you're not going to come on and say that Jerry did exactly what he said he was going to do?
No, because he didn't.
Yeah, he did.
You literally had to say yesterday he didn't.
He did.
When we broke,
literally. I mean, there was more moves. There were more moves.
When there were more moves. What did Jerry say he was doing on Monday? Trade's already been made. And then we got in here and we went, no, it hasn't. Maybe it's been discussed. Maybe got the paperwork done. That being said, okay, cool. Does anybody in their right mind think that what they gave up to grab a past his prime DL and a two tackles so far in the season middle linebacker replaces Micah Parsons?
I got you.
No.
I got you to talk about Dallas in the first block.
I have already told you. I don't care if I talk about. I'll talk about Dallas all day long.
I want you to.
I'll give Jerry everything once.
Stay in favor with your media secret society.
That's it. That's it. Nothing to do with the fact that I'm happy to give Jerry everything he wants, so he keeps doing everything he's doing. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. All right, dudes and dudettes, I'm having some issues with recording audio, so I got to do some work. Y'all stay right there. We'll be right back. What is up, friends? It's
Wonderful.
It is the Rob Brown Show. It is the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the Great Malonzo, and you. 844-326-3663 is the number. Discussing the college football playoff rankings. They dropped last night. The Buckeyes of Ohio State hold the number 1 overall seed. Indiana, Texas A&M, and Alabama are 2, 3, and 4. They are the 4 teams that, if the season ended today, would receive a first-round bye. 3 undefeated teams, one at 9-0. That would be the Indiana Hoosiers. 2 of them, the Buckeyes and the Aggies, at 8-0. The last bye would be owned by 7-1 Alabama. Georgia is number 5. Ole Miss, number 6. BYU, Texas Tech, Oregon, Notre Dame round out the top 10. The Red River rivalry, 11-12. Texas at 11. Oklahoma filling out spot number 12. But as of right now, Oklahoma would be left out despite being at number 12. They would get left out as it is the top 5 highest ranked college football conference champions. Right now, the 5th highest ranked conference champion are the Memphis Tigers. The Memphis Tigers unranked in the college football playoff poll. They are number 22 in the Associated Press poll. Does not matter if they are ranked 12, 25, or 107th. If they are the highest 5th, or if the 5th highest ranked conference champion, they would slide all the way up to the 12th seed, which right now would bump Oklahoma out of the mix. Utah, Virginia, Louisville, Vanderbilt, Georgia Tech are stacked up behind them. Virginia would be in right now as the ACC's champion. They are ranked number 14 overall, but they would get in right now as the 11 seed. Effectively, what you would be looking at is that the Notre Dame Fighting Irish would be number 10. The ACC's current frontrunner of Virginia would be number 11. You would end up with Memphis as the highest ranked group of 5 champion at number 12. But the rankings go a different way. Again, Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Alabama on the bye. Georgia, Ole Miss, BYU, Texas Tech, Oregon, Notre Dame, top 10. Texas, Oklahoma, Utah, Virginia are 11 through 14. Louisville is at 15. Vandy at 16. Georgia Tech at 17, followed by Miami, USC, and Iowa to round out the top 20. Michigan, Mizzou, Washington, Pitt, and Tennessee would be your finals in the top 25. And I do recognize that in the last segment of the show, and this is my bad, I misspoke by saying I was giving you the rankings. That is not what I was giving you. I was giving you the bracket that we would look at. The rankings are what I just gave to you. The bracket is what I looked at there. And again, like the rankings to some degree, I was on air with Brad and Ryan on BetMGM Tonight last night. And I made the point to them. Ryan Horvath said, like, do you go out of your way to watch the rankings? Do you really care about the week 1 rankings? And I said, I care about the week 1 rankings for the same reason that I care about the preseason AP rankings. Do I think that they're great? No. I think they can be right. I think they can be wrong. Do I think that they get them right every time? No. Do I think they get them wrong every time? No. The reason that they are interesting, the reason that they are compelling is only because the week 1 rankings obviously impact the week 2 rankings. And week 2 impacts week 3 and 3 to 4 and 4 to 5 and 5 to 6. And then ultimately it all impacts the final college football playoff rankings. Now, obviously, what happens on the football field matters the most. But I pointed out to Ryan Horvath, and I think you can see this a lot in the AP poll. People who are placed in a position to vote on a poll, they take a lot of convincing to move a team down that doesn't lose, almost to some degree, regardless of what they show you on the football field, right? Like, once you make a statement about X is Y, I think that this thing is this adjective, or I think that this team ranks here on a certain list of things. People are hard-pressed to say, I might have gotten that one wrong. People are hard-pressed to say, I might have screwed up. I might have gotten that team incorrect. They would rather fight to tell you why, well, actually, I wasn't wrong at all. And here is a bunch of mental gymnastics to prove that. I've said before, like, to me, the single most endearing quality that any person can have is the ability to say, Yep, got that one wrong. That's on me. My bad. I've got new data. I've got new evidence, and I'm changing what I feel and how I feel about this thing because I think that is a lost art. I think we have created a society that so values being right, not being smart, being right. I think we've created a society that so values being right that changing your mind and reestablishing a new position based on new research, data, information, whatever, has become like a negative. Like that's frowned upon. We even have a term for it in politics. We call it flip-flopping. It's like, yeah, he changed his mind. Shouldn't we all do that? Oh, no, he's a flip-flopper and flip-floppers are bad. Like we've turned it into a negative trait. So with all of that being said, the reason I care about last night was twofold. Number one, because it established what these rankings are going to be moving forward. And if it established what these rankings are going to be moving forward, that means when we get to playoff rankings a week from last night, that means when we get to the next spot, it is going to be a whole new discussion about who goes where and why. But because voters are typically and traditionally not going to want to say, I got that one wrong. What they will do instead is try to justify what they said in week one, whatever. So I do think that matters that matters for a lot of different reasons. The second reason I was interested is what I led off with, which is I just wanted to see what the initial bracket looks like. Because I do think that if we look up and down the bracket, based on where teams are, based on where they were selected, based on where they were placed in the rankings, you can kind of start to get an idea of which teams have more leeway than others. For instance, Alabama, the highest ranked one-loss team, 7-1 at number 4. Georgia's number 5. Ole Miss is number 6. I thought about this last night. I think Ole Miss has to win out in the regular season. They have the same record as Alabama. I don't know if Alabama has to win out in the regular season. I think theoretically Alabama could lose another game, not even play for an SEC title game, and could still slot in somewhere. Now, there's not much in the way of threats for that. They've got LSU without a head coach in their first contest without Brian Kelly. And then they've got number 12 Oklahoma coming to the house, which, good football team. But I haven't seen, despite a couple of good wins, I haven't seen anything out of Oklahoma that I go, oh, yeah, that team's ready for Bama. Then they've got Eastern Illinois and Auburn, who just fired their head coach. By the way, a quarter of the SEC teams are head coachless right now, which is wild, dude. Anyway, I think Alabama may have a little bit of breathing room somewhere. They could be a 2-loss team that doesn't play for a title and sneak in. And it's going to depend on, obviously, does BYU lose one? Because I think 2-loss Bama gets in ahead of 1-loss BYU. They'll get in ahead of 2-loss Texas Tech. I think all these teams, I think they have to win out. And then you look at teams like Oklahoma, who are 1 spot out, Utah at 2 losses, just like Oklahoma, who are 2 spots out. Not only do they have to be perfect, but I think they've got to be impressive. Here's the thing. I think Utah will have to have a hell of a lot more style points than Oklahoma to fight their way in. I think Oklahoma could win out and just get in on, hey, look how tough our second half was. Maybe you're overreacting. All right, we're going to talk more about this as the show rolls on. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate. Excuse me just a minute, guys. Be right back. The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo, and you. 844-326-3663, 844-FANFONE is the number to be a part of the radio program. This morning, we would certainly love to have you. Because as Lonzo said earlier in the show, am just a dyed-in-the-wool, bleeds purple and orange Clemson lover. It's true. It's true. He's outed me as a
wow. That was a direct
secret
quote
tiger
from me.
It was spot on. Not even a drip of paraphrase there. That's quite literally what he said.
Yeah, because dyed in the wool is definitely something that I've never said for the first
Dyed
time right
in
now.
the wool Clemson guy is Rob Brown. That's what he said earlier in the show. So I am going to play you a clip, and I'm going to play you a clip that is from Dabo Swinney. And I'm going to play you a clip from Dabo Swinney that when I say never in all my days, never have I agreed with a head coach more than I agree with Dabo Swinney in the press conference he held earlier this week when he said this.
Impactful. So, as opposed to just getting a report on Monday, you turn in 10. We had a game. I'm not criticizing. I ain't gonna tell you the game. I'm not gonna say the game, but we're only allowed to turn in, there's a system of accountability, but y'all don't know anything about it. It's behind a curtain. How dare we have accountability? In the meantime, we got gambling issues going on, people being suspended, all that kind of stuff, right? Yep. I mean, refs are people too. It ain't just coaches and players. And if they're a part of the game, then by God, they ought to be a part of the game. And they ought to be a part of the accountability, and they ought to be a part of the consequences, not just behind some shadowy curtain. No, they ought to have to answer for it. And listen, there's judgment calls and all that. And I mean, we just have to disagree to disagree. But there's also absolute flat out misses with no consequences. And, and you get a sheet, we're allowed to turn in 10 calls. All right. And so we had a game earlier this year that we lost. I had 14 I wanted to turn in, but I only turned in 10. All right. I thought 8 were wrong, but got back. Yep. Missed it. 5 of the 10 were wrong. And I mean, these are game-changing calls. Obvious pass interference, not called. That takes you off the field. But yeah, we just get this will be addressed with the crew and yada, yada, yada. Okay. Yeah, but you ain't there's no public accountability. Ain't none of that. So that's the system. The system needs to change. It needs to be changed. There needs to be challenge opportunity, and we need full-time officials. If you're going to have this type of stakes, it needs to be full-time officials. It's impactful.
So that is what Dabo Swinney said at his press conference earlier this week. He said, look, there may be an accountability system that happens behind the scenes, but they don't need to have all of that taking place behind some dark curtain. They don't need to have all this taking place outside of the public light. In fact, he opened by saying there may be an accountability system, but y'all don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. We don't know what it is.
I don't know. I thought that was a slight dig at the media.
Absolutely not.
How he said, but you wouldn't know what that is.
No.
About accountability.
Because
okay.
he literally used the word public like 4 times after that.
Okay.
I think it means all of us.
I mean, you can cover it, but that's
not a cover. That's you running to.
By the way,
Dabo being
I
a
was
thing.
talking about him.
No, I know.
He covered it by doing it. Okay.
I don't think it's.
So you didn't hear it, but I did. Okay. That doesn't mean that I'm wrong.
No, but it doesn't mean you're right. I don't think Dabo has anything about the media here. I think it is very simply, he got screwed by a call. He's ticked off about the whole thing. And he's making a point that you have accountability systems in place for coaches. You have accountability system in place for players. You have accountability systems in place for administration officials in schools. There are accountability systems in place for everyone in college football except officials who theoretically are the second most impactful group of people when it comes to anything that happens on any given play behind only the players. And that's if they're getting everything right. If they're getting it wrong, they're the most impactful people on the football field. If they get calls wrong, they're the most impactful group of people in a football game. And I think the point that he's making here, and this is why 4 weeks ago, whenever it was, after the Auburn-Georgia game, when the Southeastern Conference said, yeah, that official from that game, a game in which it was very clear and obvious that they got calls blatantly wrong, including the goal line play that it was a touchdown, but it wasn't a touchdown because it was a fumble, but it was a fumble, but it was dead, even though it was picked up and returned. So if it was a fumble, Georgia should have scored going the other way, but they blew that dead. What are we doing here? And they suspended an official for the remainder of the regular season. Now, I've already told you, I think, and I'll put my if Lonzo, if you'll hand me the tinfoil cap, I need to put it on now, because I looked at that and I said, this is a spot where they've got an official who is retiring at the end of the year. So I think they said, we're going to pay you these last 4 weeks worth of paychecks, and then you're retiring. Enjoy your 4-week vacation before your retirement. Here's your money. We need to, this is a way that we can look as if we hold officials to account for considerate mistakes. This is a way for us to look as if we have disciplinary actions in place for egregious mistakes made by officials, but we don't actually have to do anything because you're retiring anyway. So I'm 1,000% down with what Dabo Swinney had to say. And again, I would even say that this is correct. Even if you don't feel like the DPI that was called on a Clemson player on what to me was obvious and egregious offensive pass interference. And again, you can say, hey, look, the Clemson player rode the Duke player all the way down the field before that happened. If you are correct, then you should be just as mad that that obvious call was missed too. Right? That doesn't make it better. If you go Rob Brown, Dabo sour grapes here, Clemson got away with a DPI on the way down the field, then you should be equally as upset that wasn't called. Because if that pass ends up in the dirt, Duke got screwed just as much as Clemson got screwed.
All right. So I get sometimes you need to speak out, even though nothing will happen, just so someone will hear your voice. And I get that. In this case, will he be fined again?
No, he said, I'm not criticizing. So he wasn't criticizing.
Okay.
Take him at his word on that.
Is that how that works?
Yeah. It's kind of like when people say no disrespect.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever they say next, they could be no disrespect, but your mama's ugly. You'd be like, whoa. And they go, no, it's not disrespect. I said no disrespect.
So if I said no disrespect, but you look like Constantine right now.
First off, that's a compliment.
I mean,
you tell me I look like Keanu?
With the tattoos coming out and everything, I'm waiting. So I'm
what should have been, what would be no offense is when Kane said, I thought you were part of Right to Censor. That should be preceded with a no offense. But so here's the thing. Like I said, even if you think the Clemson DB got away with a defensive pass interference before the call that was made down at the end zone, then you should be made that it wasn't called then. Not that way. Oh, it was a makeup call because they got it egregiously wrong because that was 12 yards in the other direction. And the guy who threw the flag was the back judge who was standing by the goalpost.
Let's say all the coaches band together, or a majority of them band together, and say they demand something be done by the bad calls this year. How do you fix it?
2 ways. I think the first one, Dabo kind of hit it on there, which is just have a system in place that we all see and we think is good enough. Step one, a disciplinary procedure that is in place, that is rigid, and that we all go, okay, cool. At least they're in the right direction here. Or, hey, that's good enough for us. Now we got referees that are being sidelined, suspended, whatever. Do what the SEC did, but do it to guys who aren't retiring in 4 weeks. Do it to guys that are just getting out there. You're suspended for X amount of games. Or set up some sort of system where there is promotion relegation of officials. If you're in an SEC game and you blow it, you don't work any more SEC games. You're relegated. You're doing Sun Belt now. And if you screw it, and I know every conference has their own officiating, but why? Why do we need that? Why don't we have universal officiating? Why don't all officials report to the NCAA directly? Why did the ACC, the SEC, the Big 12, why do they all have their own officials? Just have everybody central to the NCAA. have officiating crews that just do every game. I mean, oh, well, Rob, they're more familiar with that. Who cares? What does it matter, right? The game is universal. College football is universal. If you can officiate Florida, Georgia, you can officiate Cal, Stanford. If you can officiate Cal, Stanford, you can officiate Ohio State, Michigan. It's a universal game. Doesn't matter if you're playing in the SEC, the Big 12, the Pac-12, the Big 10, whatever. The second thing is, I really do think it would be a good idea for the NCAA to not just centralize officiating under their banner, but let's have full-time officials. Let's have full-time refs. Guys, that all they
how many
do is
years has that
officiate.
has that been cried out for? I mean, how many years have people wanted that?
So we should just
No. What I'm saying is, has there been any movement to make that happen? I don't recall there being any.
I don't either.
So these voices fall on deaf ears, and no change is coming.
I don't either. But let me ask you a secondary question. We've always had coaches that have criticized officials. How many have you heard say something like Dabo said, through the standpoint of, we need a system of accountability. We need a system of discipline. Listen, we got a set of rules for college football players and coaches. You can and you can't. And if you do, then this. And if you don't, then that. How many times have we heard a coach, not just a coach, but a coach the stature of in college football of a Dabo Swinney say, here are some suggestions.
All right. People who don't like Clemson would probably say, oh, this is just a coach whining.
Of course they will.
A coach that's won, 3 games this year and trying to cover his butt.
Of course they will.
I mean, and I'm not talking about me, because I think he has valid points. I do, but I don't see a solution, because people have had this complaint for as long as I remember, and I'm pretty old, and it hasn't been fixed. They haven't done anything to even attempt to fix it, and I don't see it gets fixed anytime in the future.
The point that I am making here is, I cannot remember a spot when a coach the stature of a Dabo Swinney spoke out. Yes, I have heard fans clamoring for years. I have heard lower level coaches clamoring for years. But this is the first time a guy of that weight has done it. And I think that if other guys, how much more credibility does this lend if Ryan Day gets on board and says, I echo Dabo Swinney's sentiments? If Kirby Smart gets on board and says, I echo the sentiments? If Kalen DeBoer.
It would, but they're winning, so they won't.
See, I don't know. I don't know. It's in all it takes. All it's going to take is one. All it's going to take is Ohio State to lose the same way Clemson lost for Ryan Day to go, this is bull crap, and it's got to get fixed. But it takes one. It takes somebody to start it. It takes somebody to start it at every level of whatever it is, and Dabo at his level is the first to start it. And I applaud him for it.
When he was at the height of his power, why didn't he do it then?
Do you recall a situation in which something like this happened? I'm not saying it didn't.
So it only matters if it happens to your team. If it's a problem across the league, or across college football, and it is across the NFL.
This is the point.
You speak out when you have the loudest
I agree.
voice.
This is the point. One of the biggest political philosophies I'm struggling with right now is the number of people who look around and they don't say something is a problem until it directly impacts them. Now it's a problem. Oh, this thing is being removed from the system.
That's what I'm saying.
But I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you. But the point here is, for me, fundamentally, if you look around and you see that something negative is impacting other people, you should have the compassion to jump in and say, no, this is a problem. And even though it's not impacting me directly, I see why it's a problem, and I could be next in line. There before the grace of God go I, as the expression goes. Like, that could be me next, so I'm going to talk out about it now. And yeah, it's Dabo because he got impacted. But I do think other coaches should look and go, officiating has been a major problem this year. Like, that is the one thing that I think everybody I've been on a show with have said. College football officiating has sucked this year. And if it just keeps going, there comes a point where you go, what the hell's the point? All right, we'll talk more about this later on in the show. We'll talk more college football playoff rankings and NFL trade deadline news when we come back. That's all after Lonzo talks about those things, but in more detail during the Sports Flash.
First college football playoff rankings have dropped. Ohio State is number 1 ahead of Indiana, Texas A&M, Alabama, and Georgia. Oregon is at 6 and Ole Miss 7. BYU followed by Texas Tech, Oregon, Notre Dame. There's a typo. I got to fix it. Texas and Oklahoma at 12. However, the 5th highest conference leader is Memphis, unranked in the CFP poll, who would slide into the 12th seed. It's playoffs for today. The NFL trade deadline is passed with a flurry of moves. The Cowboys sent a 2027 first, 2022 second, and a DT Monty Smith to the Jets for former All-Pro Quinnen Williams, and added Logan Wilson from the Bengals for a 7th. And the first college football playoff game will take place on December 19th with an 8 p.m. start time, and will be followed on December 20th with a triple header that features games at noon, 3:30, and 7:30. I know we're talking about this early, but it'll be here before you know it. I had fixed that. I had not.
If you are facing divorce, call Cordell and Cordell today. There's a lot on the line in divorce. This is Joe Cordell of Cordell and Cordell, the largest family law firm in the country, with over 35 years of helping clients navigate divorce. Divorce touches all areas of your life: your home, savings, retirement, and of course, kids. So when you find yourself facing divorce, you need a partner you can count on.
That's another fair take, Kane. And that was kind of my point. Was I understand that the conferences want to protect the integrity of officiating across the game, but like when it's being universally panned right now by how bad it is across the entire game, like I'll give you a quick story. I'll probably tell this story on air, actually. When I lived in Pensacola, I was in the arena host for the Pensacola Ice Flyers, who were an SPHL team, pardon me. And one year we did a Halloween game. And much like I do here, I went in costume. Well, hockey, you make fun of referees. It's just kind of part of the culture of the game. So I went as a blind ref. I went completely dressed in officiating gear. I got officiating gear from the team, completely unofficial, but I wore over my glasses, I wore those big old people glasses that you get when you get your eyes dilated, that cover your regular glasses.
Roy Orbison glasses.
Yeah. And I brought a cane and everything. And they put me on screen. And the team got a letter from the league condemning that and saying it was denigrating the integrity of the officiating. And the president of the team wrote back and said, "Don't you think the officials are denigrating?" I'm actually going to tell that story. I'll come back.
Girl.
So I want to tell a real quick story because Kane, who is watching our live stream right now, Facebook.com/TheFanUpstate, The Fan Upstate on YouTube and Twitter, The Rob Brown Show on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Join us, go behind the scenes, chat with other members of the Armada, hang out with Zoe and I during the breaks, et cetera, et cetera. Kane, as we were talking about Dabo's rant on accountability for officials, which I am wholeheartedly in agreement with. Kane said one of the reasons that there's not a better standard is, quote, it puts the responsibility on the ACC, et cetera, to properly train these refs, and they don't want to do it. Yeah, and I don't know if it's about the actual training. I don't know if it's about the accountability. I don't know what angle it is, but I get the point you're driving at, and I totally agree with you. Tell you a quick story. Before I moved to the butthole of America, Jacksonville, when I lived in Pensacola, Florida, I was the in-arena host for the Pensacola Ice Flyers. And 15, 16, something like that, they had a game fall on Halloween night. And so, because Rob Brown loves some Halloween, I went in costume. Well, the costume I went in was as a blind hockey official. Now, I didn't do it as like a form of protest against officiating across the SPHL. I did it because it was funny. No other reason. And part of hockey culture is everybody hates the refs, right? It's just like it's an ongoing gag. I've had conversations with refs in the ECHL here in the Ville and in the SPHL when I lived in Pensacola. I've had conversations with the refs like, doesn't it bother you that it doesn't matter what building you go into, you are always the most hated 3 or 4 guys on the ice? And almost exclusively, every one of them is like, no, dude, like, that's just part of the culture. That's just kind of what hockey is. Like, that happens at the lowest level of juniors all the way up to the NHL. If you're an official, you know you are going to be the most chirped at dude on the ice any given night. So, that being said, low-level minor league hockey refereeing is not always exceptional because those guys barely get paid to do the job. So most people, like the guys that referee low-level minor or major or low-level professional league hockey, they do it because they love hockey. Like they do it because they love hockey. And many of them, like they were hockey players and just hockey's all they've ever known. So when they get done playing, when they can't play anymore, reffing's up next. Because in order to ref, you've got to be able to skate like a hockey player and know the game of hockey. And I'm telling you, hockey is not just a fast-paced game, but it's a very complicated game to officiate. And it's a very difficult game to officiate. So most of the guys that ref are former players. And they don't get paid a lot. They do it because they love the game of hockey, and it's just what they know. So the low-level officiating was not very good for the SPHL that year. And I did a Halloween game where I dressed fully as a blind ref. I went in full ref garb. The team got me a ref shirt with the orange sleeves and everything. And I put on a hockey helmet, and I had my glasses, and I put over them those big, really big, like glasses covers, you know, when you go get your eyes dilated at the eye doctor. And when you leave, they give you those big, like shades. You put them on over your actual glasses. I put on a pair of those. I went out with a cane, of Seeing Eye cane and all of that. And went out and did my stuff on the camera and was in uniform the whole time and acted in character, right? Like when I went out there for the on-ice interactions and whatnot, you know, I walked my way out there with the Seeing Eye cane and everything. And so it was really just having fun on Halloween. Well, our team got an email from the league and a fine from the league for what they called, and I quote, denigrating the integrity of the officiating of the league. And the president of the team at the time called me into his office, and he's like, yo, look at this email. And I read it, and I was like, dog, I'm so sorry. And he's like, don't be. The ref sucks. You were just having fun, whatever. And he wrote back an email to the SPHL that said, I don't think our in-arena host was denigrating the integrity of the officials. I think the officials denigrate the integrity of the officials the way that they are officiating. And a large part of that was because, and he told me, there's very minimal training for refs at that level. Like basically, if you find a guy who played hockey and knows the game at an elementary level, those guys get hired. They get hired to do the job. Doesn't pay a lot, but they get hired to do the job. And that is, like, that's kind of how I feel a lot about college officiating to some degree. Like most of these guys who do it, I've told you before, a guy by the name of Jason Autry. I used to work with Jason Autry. When I was the public information officer for Okaloosa County, Jason Autry was the director of public works, ran the sewers and the roads, man. Jason was a great dude. Loved Jason. Like I loved Jason. I hung out with Jason all the time. Jason Autry is a head official in the Southeastern Conference. Jason Autry was the head official of the LSU South Carolina game last year. The game that most of us, not all of us, but most of us feel officiating screwed South Carolina out of a win. He was the head official of that game. And I reached out to him after the game. He never responded to me, which totally makes sense. Like, even though we were boys, like, he's like, all right, this guy works in media. I'm not talking to him, which is understandable. But the point is, that was Jason's weekend job. That man was officiating one of the games at the time, even though it was earlier in the season. It felt like one of the most important games of the year. Brian Kelly was, even last year was kind of on the hot seat. And Shane Beamer's Gamecocks at that point kind of felt like maybe they got a little something working here. One of the biggest games of the year was being officiated by a guy who from Monday to Friday, from 8 till 5 p.m., is the director of public works for Podunk, Okaloosa County, Florida. Right? Like, that's the point that I'm making. Why not have guys that do it for a living? Yeah, I know they would only officiate, most of them 12, some of them 13, 14, the best of the best 15 games per year. I get it. And I know money is always the issue, but much like I feel about NIL and rev share and all that, please don't tell me when college football is a multi-billion-dollar industry that there's not money to give refs $100,000 to that. This is what you do. All you do is officiate. We are going to have you officiate all under the NCAA banner. There's no more ACC refs, Big Ten refs, SEC refereeing crews. You referee for the NCAA. And that's what you do. We're going to have a group out of Florida so they can all train together, or a group out of Michigan, they can all train together, or a group out of California, they can all train together. And every week, we are going to take the highest graded officials, and you're going to get the biggest games of the week. And if you go out there and you screw it up and you have a bad game, cool. Next week, you're downgraded. Next week, instead of doing Ohio State, Michigan, next week, you're going to be doing Cal Stanford. And if you're on Cal Stanford, we're going to drop you down to doing, South Dakota State, Montana. And if you screw up that one, we're going to drop you down to doing the University of West Florida versus Delta State. And when you get good at doing that game, you can come back up a level. Why not? Why not do it that way? Why not have an intense training, centralized protocol that refs come on board, but they get paid a hell of a lot of money to put 8 months worth of training in to get ready to not blow it on Saturdays in the fall when tens of millions of us are watching every single game. Why would we not do that? All right, we'll circle back around to that later on in the show. But, ladies and gentlemen, it is 7:08 in the morning. You now have less than 52 minutes until you have got to get to the office, until you get ready to take that first and all-important break of the day, until you talk sports with your coworkers or your supervisor, your boss, your IT guy, whoever you might talk sports with. And when you do that, you got to know what's going on, don't you? Of course you do. That's why you're here, and that's why we do this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar, the almanac of the absurd, and the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers say, "You're 47! What are you gonna do?" They take their first bathroom break.
No.
Here we go. Welcome to the Water Cooler Cheat Sheet on the Fan Upstate.
It is an accelerated and abbreviated version of the Water Cooler Cheat Sheet. Top 3 sports stories you need to know before you get to the office. Let's dive right in with item numero uno. The College Football Playoff Selection Committee has put out the first college football playoff rankings and therefore have put out the first college football playoff bracket. The rankings stack up this way. The Buckeyes of Ohio State, as they are in the AP poll, are the number 1 overall team in the country, as they are in the AP poll as well. Indiana, Texas A&M, and Alabama are numbers 2, 3, and 4. The AP poll remains the same through number 5, Georgia, in both spots. We have our first differentiation at number 6 and 7. In the college football playoff rankings, Ole Miss is number 6, Ole Miss is number 6, BYU is number 7, Texas Tech is 8, Oregon is number 9. In the AP poll, they're almost exactly the opposite. In the AP poll, it is Oregon 6, Ole Miss 7, BYU, Texas Tech 9. In the college football rankings, it is 6, Ole Miss 7, BYU 8, Texas Tech 9, Oregon. Number 10 is Notre Dame in both polls. Another difference here, number 11, Texas in the college football playoff rankings, Oklahoma in the AP. Oklahoma is number 12 in the college football playoff rankings. However, they're not in right now. And I'll tell you why here in just a moment. For the rest of the top 25, number 13, Utah, followed by ACC representatives Virginia and Louisville at 14 and 15. Another SEC team in Vanderbilt at 16, and then back to the ACC for 17 and 18. That's Georgia Tech and Miami. USC is number 19, ahead of Iowa at number 20. Your top 25 rounds out with Michigan, Missouri, Washington, Pittsburgh, and Tennessee. Now, remember, the bracket is not going to look like the rankings because it is the top 5 highest ranked conference champions followed by the next 7 highest ranked teams, which means that the bracket would shake out this way. The 12-5 matchup in the first round would be Memphis and Georgia. The winner of that would take on number 4 Alabama. The 8-9 matchup is number 8 Texas Tech taking on number 9 Oregon. The winner of that would get number 1 overall seeded Ohio State. The 6-11 matchup is number 6 Ole Miss taking on Virginia, the highest ranked ACC team at the moment. The winner of that would get number 3 Texas A&M. And the 7-10 matchup, a religious bowl, as the Notre Dame Fighting Irish would take on the BYU Cougars. The winner of that matchup would get number 2 Indiana. Coming up on the show, we are going to take a look at the pass to the playoffs for the top 20-ish team, see who's got a little wiggle room and who is up against it. We will get to that coming up later in the show, but let's get to item number 2. The NFL trade deadline passed yesterday at 4 p.m. We did have a flurry of moves. There were a few moves that moved the needle. Most of them did not, but here's where we're at. The Jets did make a couple of moves. The Jets got Jasir Taylor out of for a 2028 conditional 7th-round pick from the Chargers. The Chargers got offensive tackle Trevor Penning for a 2027 6th-round pick out of New Orleans. Quinnen Williams is a defensive tackle picked up by the Dallas Cowboys from the New York Jets in return for a 2026 2nd-rounder, a 2027 1st-rounder, and defensive tackle Maisie Smith, who is on his way up to New York at this point. So effectively, what has happened is that the absolute genius and icon that he is, Jerry Jones, turned Micah Parsons into Quinnen Williams, Logan Wilson, a 2nd-round pick, and a little bit of cap room. That's what the Cowboys got for Micah Parsons. That's not good. In fact, I would say that is objectively bad.
That is at least good.
No,
it may not be
in
great,
what world?
but it's at least
what world?
good. The player that they traded Michael Parsons for has already paid dividends, and if they are scouting as good as they probably
Pay
are,
dividends for
these
Green
other
Bay.
these other ones will also pay off. I don't get the hatred towards the Cowboys. I just don't understand. I don't.
How many sacks does Quinnen Williams have right now?
I don't care. They're not my team.
You don't care.
They're not my team.
Time out. What you don't get to do is say, I don't care, they're not my team,
Well,
but also you should feel this way.
I just did.
I know that.
Yeah,
you
I
can't. I mean,
No.
you can, but
Yeah,
you shouldn't.
Absolutely
You
can.
but you shouldn't. It doesn't make sense to me to be like, I don't care, that's bad, whatever, but I don't understand why you feel
No,
this
I'm
way.
just trying to understand why you care so much. That's all.
Because I am against inept ownership. That's why. At its core, I am against inept ownership. Even when it impacts teams I don't like, I am against inept ownership. Always have been, always will be.
Secret Society.
Well, I'm not in that one, so
The media secret society. You
Yes.
absolutely are.
is the media.
I've seen the ring. You tried to hide it. I saw it.
Damn, I thought I put that
I
thing
shouldn't have
away.
said anything. Now I'm going to, disappear.
Micah Parsons has been turned into Quinnen Williams, who has 1 sack on this year and is not a particularly efficient pass rusher. Logan Wilson, whose cap is 2.5 sacks any given year in his career, a 2nd-rounder, and some cap room. Nice job, Jira. Nice job.
How many sacks does Michael Parsons have since he went to?
I
Green
don't
Bay?
know. Without looking it up off the top of my head, I guarantee it's more than 1. In fact, I would go so far as to say I would be shocked if there are more than 2 games where Micah Parsons had less than 1 sack in those games. I'd be willing to bet. I don't know off the top of my head, but I know more than 1. More than 1. How many did he average when he was in Dallas? A hell of a lot more than 1. All right, a couple of other moves that did get made yesterday. Seattle picked up wide receiver Rashid Shaheed from the New Orleans Saints in return for a 2026 4th and 5th rounder. I actually like that move a lot. Kind of an over-the-top wide receiver 9 guy, take the top off the defense. That's going to help Sam Darnold out quite a bit. As far as the Saints go, committed to the rebuild at this point. We are now officially committed to the rebuild, and I think that's the right move. Sauce Gardner, this was one of the bigger shocks. Sauce Gardner will leave the Jets. He is headed to the Colts in return for a 1st-rounder next year, a 1st-rounder in 2027, and wide receiver Adney Mitchell, who are all on their way to the New York Jets. I really like this because Sauce Gardner had hit his cap in New York. And I don't think that Sauce, who is kind of a boisterous, to some degree, volatile personality on the field, he was never going to mesh with what Aaron Glenn wants to build with New York. So the Jets now have 2 1st-rounders, and Adney Mitchell is a good addition to a wide receiver core that has not done a lot and is obviously missing some dudes. I like that pickup. I like that trade both ways. Jacoby Myers leaving Las Vegas. He is on his way to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Called that shot yesterday, by the way. The Jags got to go get a wide receiver. Here's why I like this for the Jags. You were out Brian Thomas. You were out Travis Hunter, both on the IR. Both will be back in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Jacoby Myers is good enough to cover that gap until they're gone and is a wonderful number 3 wide receiver when those two guys come back. Jacksonville, when they are fully healthy, is going to have one of the best wide receiver cores in football. And I will say this, I think this is at the point where, by the way, Joey just texted and said Micah Parsons has 6.5 sacks on the year. So, grain of salt.
Yeah, but that also counts the Dallas sacks.
He didn't play for Dallas this year. He has 6.5 sacks for the Packers, as he is a Packers. Like, no,
I didn't
it's
think he
not.
got traded. I didn't think he got traded till later on in the
No.
year. Are you sure?
Yeah.
You're absolutely positive.
Now I'm not because you're
Yeah.
making me question myself.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. At the end of the day,
it does.
what Jerry traded away is not anywhere close to what Michael Parsons adds to a
Because
defense. He's
for
just
Green
not.
Bay, I found 3 sacks and a couple half sacks. Half sacks don't count.
I
Half
genuinely
sacks do not count.
cannot understand a world where people think Micah Parsons for Quinnen Williams and Logan Wilson in a second rounder is a good trade. It's just not. It's just not. It's just not
It's
a good
not
trade.
a great trade, but it's a good trade. You got
yes,
you
Green
definitely got
Bay-
guys that will compete.
Not like Micah Parsons.
Okay, he's helped Green Bay win every game.
If you traded Patrick Mahomes and you got Joe Flacco, you wouldn't go, well, he's won some games that he's helped. You'd go, what the hell are we doing? You would riot. And I would riot with you.
under Andy Reid, Flacco would probably win. He's winning in Cleveland. Cincinnati.
I can't help with this. I can't help with this. If you
That's
think
what I
Quinnen Williams and
think
Logan Wilson,
every single day. I can't help with
yeah,
this.
if you think Quinnen Williams and Logan Wilson equal Michael Parsons, I can't help you.
Dude,
I just can't help you.
Open your mind a little bit.
I don't
You're
need
so
to. I don't need to.
Myopic.
I don't need to. I open my eyes and I see it.
You're a myopic hate of Dallas
Yes.
for some reason.
Yes.
I don't care.
Dallas fans, shut up and enjoy it. Jerry's a genius, and you're better now than you were when you had Micah effing Parsons on your team. You're better now.
It's not as bad as he makes it out.
Yeah, no, it's great, Dallas fans.
It's fine.
Let's get Cole Bryson on the line. I bet he is. I bet he's just happy. It's like Quinnen Williams and Logan Wilson for Micah Parsons. What an amazing trade! What an amazing trade! I think that's spectacular.
Have we done number 3 yet?
No, we haven't. Okay. By the way, Texter said you're forgetting a first round pick Dallas got as well, which makes it a much better trade. No, Texter, I'm not. They sent the first rounder to the Jets for Quinnen Williams. You don't have that first rounder. That's Quinnen Williams now.
They still
Do
have
you understand what I'm
they still have
saying?
Their own first round.
You just traded a first round pick
Right.
for a guy that has 1 sack on the year.
Do they still have their own first round?
Yes,
Okay.
but they didn't
All right.
get that
So
for
it's not
Michael
like
Parsons.
They eliminated their first round pick.
They eliminated a first round pick for Quinnen Williams. I can't help you if you can't see that's a dumbass move. It's a dumbass, objectively bad move.
It's amazing how you can make my camera jump.
I got force, I got power. Item number 3, the college basketball season is officially open. It kicked off with a handful of games on Monday, including the Clemson Tigers, who opened up their season with an 88-38 win over the New Hampshire Wildcats, who came down to Clemson to take one on the chin. 18 points off the bench from Ace Buckner for Clemson. Jake Wallen had 11 as a starter for the Clemson Tigers. The Tigers shot 51% from the floor, 32% from behind the arc, 30 of 41 from the free throw stripe. South Carolina got their season started off last night with a 91-72 win over the North Carolina A&T Aggies. It was the three-point shooting for the Gamecocks that was impressive. 14 of 32 for a 44% completion percentage from 3. 9 different Gamecocks had at least one three-pointer. The Cocks also shot 49.2% from the floor on 31 of 63 shooting. Defensively, they held North Carolina A&T. I don't love the number to 43.3% from the floor, but it is a good NC A&T basketball team at that level of basketball. So it's not the worst thing in the world. Again, is it going to be a struggle bus year for South Carolina? Probably. And we'll talk more about it as we get close to it. In other massive basketball scores from last night, number 1, Purdue, 82-51 winners over Evansville. Number 6, Duke edged Texas, 75-60. Kentucky, 77-51 winners over Nichols. And Texas Tech, 98-60 winners over Lindenwood, which is a real thing. Dating back to Monday, Houston, 75-57 winners over Lehigh. Number 3, Florida, upended by number 13, Arizona. The defending champs go down in game number 1, 93-87. UConn, 79-55 over New Haven. St. John's drops 108 on Quinnipiac to their 74. Michigan, with the high score of the weekend, 121-78 winners over Oakland. BYU, 71-66 over Villanova. Oh, Chris Lewis said the mighty have fallen. Louisville, 104-45 over SC State. UCLA, 80-74 over Eastern Washington. Arkansas, 109-77 over Southern. Bama, 91-62 over North Dakota. Iowa State, 88-50 over Farley Dickinson. Illinois, number 17 in the country, 113-55 on Jackson State. Tennessee takes down Mercer 76-71. Kansas, 94-51 winners over Green Bay. Auburn, 95-90 desperation overtime win over Bethune-Cookman for the Tigers. Things maybe not great in Opelika, Alabama. We'll see how it goes. Michigan State, 80-69 over Colgate. Wisconsin, 96-64 over Campbell. North Carolina, 94-54 over Central Arkansas. And that is where we end up. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back here in just a minute from right now. We've got to get back into the NFL trade deadline. We'll talk more college football playoff rankings and what I'd like to get into. Let's take a look at the teams that are contenders and see who's got the most difficult and the easiest path to make sure that they're locked into a playoff spot. We'll do that next on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. All right, dudes, stay right there. We'll be right back. All right, let me address the texter that sent in the text that said, you're forgetting a first-round pick Dallas got as well, which makes it a much better trade. The Dallas Cowboys trade with the Green Bay Packers for Micah Parsons was Parsons in a second-rounder for Williams, or for what turned into Williams, Logan Wilson, and a first-rounder. You are correct. There is a first-rounder thrown in there. He said they got 2 first-round picks, you dumbass, and got an extra next year in 2026. They traded the 2027. Get your job correct. You're right. I left out the first-round pick. You are correct. And that is a huge piece, and I shouldn't have. And you're right, Texter. I'm a dumbass. That's my bad. I left out the first-round pick in my conversation. You better nail the first-round pick. You better nail the first-round pick, because there is a huge difference in proven commodity like Micah Parsons and a first-round pick. It's just it's a proven commodity. When players are moved on for a first-round pick, like happened a couple of times yesterday, Sauce Gardner on his way out. That is because
I have a question because I don't remember. Did Jerry Jones draft Micah Parsons?
He's the general manager. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so he recognized that.
Yes.
talent. So there's a chance that maybe next year.
Absolutely, there's a chance he gets it right.
Okay, that's all I want
Yes,
to know.
and I will 1,000% say to the texter who said that I am a dumbass, I will 1,000% say that there is a chance that we circle back around next year and Jerry Jones nails his picks and he gets it right, and they get the next Micah Parsons, and I come in here and I say, hey, turns out Jerry killed the game, but is he going to get a Micah Parsons? Like, there's not many of them. Got another text that said Quinnen Williams is a defensive tackle, not a pass rusher, and he's made 3 straight Pro Bowls. Again, the point was you moved on from a generational edge rusher, and you don't have to agree with me on this, but NFL general managers have said it, that the second most important position on a football team now is edge rusher. It is quarterback, edge rusher. Go look at the draft class from last year. A lot of edge rushers. And now all of a sudden, edge rushers are being routinely taken with top 5 and top 10 picks. It's the most important spot. So listen, Quinnen Williams let's be clear about what Quinnen Williams is. He's a good interior defensive tackle against the run. 32 sacks, 17 solo, 15 assisted so far this year. And he is on pace to match what he did last year. But it has been a couple of years since he went to his 3 straight Pro Bowls, if I recall correctly. It is a guy who in 2022 had a dozen sacks. In 2023 had 5.5 sacks. In 2024, last year, had 6 sacks. 2021, 6. 2027. He has 1 this year. He has 1. So, again, it might very well turn out if Quinnen Williams shows up and let's say that Brian Schottenheimer just gets it, plugs him in, and he's a beast. Sure, Jerry maybe got this right. But I got to tell you, you're going to have to nail Williams. You're going to have to nail Wilson, and you're going to have to nail the first-round pick for me to say that you were in any way, shape, or form ahead of what you gave up in Micah Parsons. Like and it may very well come down to, do you find the next Micah Parsons in the first-round pick? But there's not a lot of Micah Parsonses out there. That's why this is such a big-time story. All right, let me get Kevin in here before we run to the break. Kev, welcome back to the show, big fella. Good to have you.
What's happening?
Not much, buddy.
Hey, man. Dallas should just, I don't know, shut their system down, bro. Like, I'm tired even looking at them. Like, it's been 30-something years since they did something, and he still keep doing stupid stuff. So just go ahead and send them to the Arena League or do something else with them, because I'm tired of even talking about it. They suck. Like, Jerry Jones, until Jerry Jones leaves, Dallas will be nothing. Like, he's cursed that whole program for as long as he stays in that building. Like, I'm done with him. But you were talking about the referees a while ago. They should hire professional referees at every level. Maybe not Little League, but high school plus, they need real referees, because you're costing games now. You done got Dabo fired over a call. Like, it probably should never got that high, but at the same time, you cost a game over a call that you own a bonehead call.
Yeah, we talked about that, the Clemson call a little bit yesterday, Kev, and the take that I had was, because it immediately got hit with a bunch of texters going, wait a minute, Rob, the Clemson player was all over the Duke wide receiver as he was making his way up the field. Now, I thought I would have labeled it as hand fighting, right? Like, if a wide receiver puts his hands on the DB has his hands on the wide receiver, that's hand fighting. That's going to be allowed to go. But the take I had was, if you are mad that the DPI was called on an offensive pass interference, like blatantly textbook in offensive pass interference, and you are mad that I had the audacity to say that call cost Clemson the game because there was PI leading up to that moment, then you should be equally as mad that defensive pass interference wasn't called 12 yards before it was called by the back judge. Why was a flag not thrown by the side judge or by the up the field official who would have been around the spot where it happened? Why did a flag not come out on that spot to indicate a DPI in order to just give Duke what they would have deserved in that spot? The fact that it didn't come out until it was an OPI to make it right, and this is where I start going into a point that a lot of people kind of check out, Kev, but the game is deeper than that. If you go, well, if he throws it anywhere else on the field, cool. But if that defender removes Duke's wide receiver from the middle of the field, that changes what everybody else on the field is going to do. It changes what guys running over the top routes are going to do. It changes how the defense is structured on the football field. It changes what the predicted outcome of that play is for the Duke Blue Devils. So you should be equally as mad that the DPI wasn't called at the line, or I shouldn't say at the line because you get your yard, whatever it is. It wasn't called 3 yards past the line of scrimmage on something that will absolutely impact a 5-wide passing route at that spot. So no matter if you want to say, oh, Rob, you're mad about the wrong part, fine, but you should still be upset about what happened before that because it impacted everything else that happened everywhere else on the football field. All I'm asking for, all Dabo asked for, and I agree with him entirely, which has not happened much this year, Kev. But what Dabo called for that I totally agree with is some level of accountability for officials or a system in place where we just have guys that this is what they do. And just like you at your job and me at my job, Kev, when you do well, you are rewarded and there are benefits. And when you do poorly, there is punishments and you are stepped backwards. Just give me something that I don't have to watch games and constantly feel like I am complaining about poor officiating.
And it take a lot after game when you doing that. You going back and forth with this referee who will not even look at you because he knew he called a bad call. Now, you got the referee that's gonna make another bad call on the other end to make up for a call that he didn't make. Just call it, man, or don't call nothing. Just let it play.
Yeah, no, that's it. Kev, appreciate the phone call, brother. Good to have you back on the show, buddy. Anytime, you're welcome to. So are the rest of you, Armada, at 844-326-3663. And listen, I know I kind of butted head. I don't have anything with the texter here who is defending the Quinnen Williams trade. I don't have an issue with it. I just don't see a world where Quinnen Williams, Logan Wilson, and a first is equal to Michael Parsons. If you disagree with me, that's fine. I'd love to have you on the show to talk about it at 844-326-3663. But I think Quinnen Williams is a good player. I think he's a very good player. Logan Wilson, I think he's probably an okay player. Maybe there's the potential for greatness. He's not an old guy. There's the potential. He's good, but he's not Micah Parsons, especially as a middle linebacker. Dallas, I will say this. Dallas is better against the run today than they were yesterday or the day before. They're better against the run. But again, in an era where defensive success is predicated by edge rushers, just like offensive success is predicated by quarterbacks. And that is a general manager's perspective. Letting arguably the best pass rusher in football, no worse than number 2, go, you better nail an edge rush pick with the number 1 draft pick that you have as a bonus next year. You better do that. If you want to talk about that, if you think I'm wrong, have at it. 844-326-3663 is the number. Let's take a break. We'll come back. Let's take a look at some of the teams that are in the playoff bracket, what might knock them out, some of the teams that are out of the playoff bracket, what might boost them in. We'll do that next on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
South Carolina men's basketball opened up the season with a 91-72 win over NCAA. South Carolina put up 14 3-pointers and most since they were 18 in a victory over George Washington back in 2023.
Johnson led South Carolina with 14 points. After beating Green Bay 16-13 at Lambeau Field on Sunday, the Panthers return home this week to take on the New Orleans Saints. Carolina was quiet at Tuesday's trade deadline, but they did add 3 players to the practice squad. The Saints made a couple of moves, acquiring draft picks from the Seahawks for wide receiver Rashid Shaheed. They also sent offensive lineman Trevor Penning to the Chargers for draft picks. The Fan Upstate's your home for Furman Paladins football and
All right, guys, hang on 1 second. Be right back. Off-putting. Spike texted the show about the Cowboys, said, so you're telling me there's a chance? To which I replied, yeah, about the same as Sydney Sweeney saying yes to a date with me. But you're allowed to ask.
Why are you looking, man? You're a married man.
Yeah, no, I'm a gentleman. I'd invite my wife to come along too.
Oh, okay.
She might even say, yeah. Who knows? You know?
Wow.
Who knows? Ladies and gentlemen, the college football playoff rankings are out. We have talked about them already. We'll talk about them a little bit more here. The Buckeyes of Ohio State, number 1, Indiana 2, Texas A&M and Alabama 3 and 4. 2 Big Ten teams, 2 SEC teams inside of the top 4. Those 4 teams would get a bye. The next 2 spots, Georgia, Ole Miss, both occupied by an SEC team. And then the Big 12 has 2 teams at BYU and Texas Tech. The next Big Ten team is Oregon at number 9. Independent Notre Dame rounds out your top 10. 11 and 12, SEC, Texas, and Oklahoma. The Big 12 holds number 13 with Utah. The first 2 ACC participants in the rankings are Virginia and Louisville at 14 and 15. Back to the SEC for Vanderbilt, and then Georgia Tech and Miami of the ACC at 17 and 18. The Big Ten has the next 3 in USC, Iowa, and Michigan. Back to the SEC with Mizzou at number 22. Big Ten, ACC, SEC, 23, 24, 25, Washington, Pittsburgh, and Tennessee. If the bracket was to be laid out today, you would have, of course, Ohio State at number 1. They would get the winner of the 8-9 game Oregon and Texas Tech. Indiana, number 2, would get the winner of the 10-7 game Notre Dame and BYU. Number 3, Texas A&M will get the winner of the Virginia Ole Miss game. And number 4, Alabama will get the winner of the Memphis and Georgia game. Let me start with this. Should the College Football Playoff Selection Committee consider reseeding after the first round? And here's why I ask. There is a world. I do not think that the Memphis Tigers are beating the Georgia Bulldogs. But any given Saturday, right? Isn't that why we love college football? Any given Saturday. If Memphis was to pull the upset on Georgia, that means number 1 Ohio State gets either Oregon or Texas Tech, and Bama would get Georgia. And here's the reality to me. I think Georgia's a very good football team. I think Georgia is probably better overall than Texas Tech. I think Georgia and Oregon are equally good, entirely different styles of football, but I think they're kind of, for me, like same level of quality. I could see them right next to each other, or 5 and 9 and be totally fine with it. Again, the AP poll, as we mentioned just a minute ago, has Oregon at number 6. The playoff ranking has them at number 9. And I will tell you a large part of that, just so we are very clear, Oregon, and I was going through the teams last night, like let's look at who's got the easiest and the toughest pass. Oregon does not have, unless you consider that Penn State was number 3 at the time, Oregon doesn't have a quality win on the schedule. Now, this is one of those times, and Ryan Horvat and I have had this discussion.
Neither does Indiana, do they?
Indiana has the win at Oregon. So, yes.
Okay, all right.
Now, granted, not much outside of that.
If Oregon hasn't beat anybody, but Indiana beat Oregon, what's that?
That's exactly fair. That's totally fair. So, this is one of those spots where, and this is why, I have the discussion.
But I know you could say the same thing about Ohio State, but but they beat Texas.
I would make the argument that
went out of the rankings and then came back in.
I would make the argument that, and I hope that I've made it clear to you guys over my coming up on 6 years here. I'm not SEC guy. Never have been. But I just think eye test subjectively, like teams in the SEC right now, and honestly, probably teams in the Big 12 have more argument resume based than teams in the Big 10 do. And you can thank Penn State for that. And you can thank Illinois for that. The 2 teams that were expected to be the next in line, and neither of them has been that.
Watching a variety of games from all the conferences, I don't see that there's any other conference that's better than the Big 10.
The SEC is better than the Big 10.
They're not, though.
They are, though.
If you go by just the AP poll, the Big 10 has held the top 2 spots almost every single week.
Correct.
And it's that way now with the CFP.
And then if you look at the AP poll, 3 is the SEC, 4 is the SEC, 5 is the SEC, 6 is the Big 10, 7 is the SEC, then the Big 12 independent, then SEC, ACC, SEC, ACC, SEC, ACC, Big 12, ACC, SEC, Big 10.
But
Big
you
10.
sound like the guy who's last year said, "Well, the SEC is a better conference," even though they didn't win. How many national championships have the Big 10? And I'm not Big 10 guy. I'm a Ohio State guy. Any other team in the Big 10 wins, I don't care. But in the end, how many national championships have come out of the Big 10 in the last 5 or 6 years?
But again, that is
that goes against your argument.
No, it doesn't. Let me explain why. Because if you look at it, we are talking about the most quality and best conference, not just who wins the national championship. I could absolutely say if I put LeBron James on a team full of elementary schoolers, and then we built the best team out of this radio station of ballers we could play. Overall, our team would be better top to bottom on the roster. That team has LeBron James. They have the best player, but our team would be a better team overall. So with that being said, yes, the best team for a couple of years in a row has come out of the Big Ten.
LeBron's not getting past a wall of me, you, and Fat Boy. He's going to feel it.
You know, you understand LeBron would go over us because ain't none of us touching backboard, right? We're not touching backboard. I will give you $1,000 if you can touch a backboard. $1,000 if you can touch a backboard. Jumping, not off a ladder. Don't do a Rob Brown. All right? Don't do a Rob Brown. A 10-foot regulation backboard. You think you can touch a backboard today? I can't. Not a chance.
No, just the backboard.
The backboard. Yeah, I would give you $1,000 if you could. All right, I don't have $1,000. I work in radio. I would give you $1,000.
Did you see my eyes light up?
You can't touch a backboard. You can't. Lonzo, you can't get out of the chair without grimacing. I know that because I do it too.
By the way,
we're not touching backboards.
$1,000 will cover my pain.
I'm talking right now. You think you can touch a backboard?
Yes.
Confidence. I like it. There's not a no.
There's no doubt in my mind that I could do it.
Touch a backboard.
Yes. It's just the bottom of the backboard. Dude, think about it. What's the height of the bottom of the backboard?
It's like 9'10", dude. It's like 9'10".
What's my reach if I stand up?
Not anywhere close to 9 feet.
Rob, I mean, what I'm talking about.
It's 9'10".
So it's 9'10". I'm 6'2". Mm-hmm. With my reach, that's at least 2 feet. So that's 8 feet.
Your hand is okay. I'll give you 2 feet. You're how tall? 6 feet.
I said 6'2".
You're okay. So you're 6'2". I'll give you 2 feet. You're 8'2". You think you have a 1 foot 8 inch vertical right now?
For sure.
Not a chance, dude. Not a chance.
For sure.
Not a chance. All right. Now, look, even William is like the nicest guy in the stream. Is like, LOL, no way.
Dude,
no.
I mean, all right. I will tell you this. Well, I can't do it because
any high school coaches want to open up a gym around noon today?
Well, I'll be in a gym tonight. The thing is, but the backboards will be lowered, so I can't do it that way.
It's not happening. It's not happening. All right, now,
Rob, can you? You already said you can't.
No, absolutely
with
cannot.
all the weight you lost, and you're only 40. How can you not touch
because
the
backboard?
We
are out of shape.
It's not about shape.
It's
about jumping ability. It's about power of legs. It's
and
about
what do you think that is a part of? That's not part of being in shape.
All right, I am.
My knees hurt golfing. I'm not touching the backboard.
I'm embarrassed. I would bet $1,000 that you could touch the bottom of the backboard.
I'm glad you got enough money to be throwing away a G.
Well, you started it.
Yeah, but I said I'm not touching. Okay, all right. We're not touching backboards. Now,
wow.
With that being said.
No, you're not. I could.
Okay. I am ready to get to a court to watch that. All right. So let's take a look at the playoff rankings as they stand. Who's got the most room? Ohio State's got the most room. Indiana, here's the thing. I don't know how much wiggle room Indiana has because unfortunately left for them, they were hoping Penn State was going to be good. They're not. That win on the road at Penn State would have been a holy crap, would you look at that team really is good type win. Now it's not. Now it's like, you better win that game. Then they got Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin is firing Luke Fickell at the end of the year. I think that experiment, unfortunately for Wisconsin, worked. I don't know if it was a culture thing. I don't know if it was a locker room thing, a mentality thing. It didn't work.
I think there's a level. I think Fickell plateaued when he's in the level of like Cincinnati.
That might be it.
I mean, there are some coaches that can make it to that point. If you remember, he coached Ohio State for like one season. It was like when Tressel had to leave, I believe, and it was not good. So I think there's a level that he plateaus at.
That's probably it. I thought though Wisconsin would be like, that's a spot that there's pressure at Wisconsin, but let's not pretend that it's like Ohio State pressure. Like I thought maybe that would work. It didn't. They're what 2-8 now. It just didn't work out.
Well, he is in that second-rate conference, the Big Ten. So I mean,
again,
that
bottom half of the league. I don't know what you're telling me. The bottom half of your league's terrible. So that being said, there's nobody left for Indiana to beat, which is why. And I had this conversation with Horvat and Ryan, and Brad last night. There is a reason that Curt Cignetti and Fernando Mendoza do not let off the gas in games. There's a reason they put 63 on Brad's Illinois Illini. There's a reason they put 56 on UCLA, 55 on Maryland. There's a reason that, as much as I have even called it out, like, why is Fernando Mendoza in this game? You are up 56-6. Why are you, like, why? Why is Fernando? The answer is because Curt Cignetti and the Indiana Hoosiers have a problem. Their problem is that when they beat a top 10 Illinois team, and the one thing that they have going for them is that win over Illinois, you can make the argument, is when the Illini started to spiral. They lost that game. They beat USC Purdue. Then they lost to Ohio State. Then they lost to Washington. And you say spiral, like they're a 3-loss football team. They're not going to go because, again, if there's a 3-loss at-large team in the SEC or in the playoffs this year, it's an SEC team. And after these playoffs, I'm not sure that there are. I think it's still on the table. It's not them. So that loss, while good at the time, not as strong as you'd hope it to be. And the Oregon win is it in terms of quality. That's why Curt Cignetti's putting 56 on as many teams as he can put 56 on. Style points may very much come into play. I don't know at number 2 that Indiana has as much runway as you think that they do. And you know me, I'm all in on Indiana. I'm all in on Curt Cignetti. I just don't think that they have the runway that other teams do. When I look at Ohio State, they have a win over, at the time, number 1 Texas. Now, playoff ranked Texas. They have a win over Illinois. Illinois was 17. Again, Illinois lost a dumb game down the line, but they have that win. They still have a top 25 team in Michigan. Ohio State's schedule is not incredible, but they've got more than Indiana does, so I think they have more runway. I think a lot of this is going to come down to, in my opinion, resumes at the end of the year. I got asked, I think either 2 weeks ago or last week on BetMGM Tonight, the conversation turned to, when you are evaluating playoff team, what matters more, resume, results, or eye test? And my answer was all 3 of them. And everybody is going to have it's kind of like when you build a character on a video game. One person might think that they want to dump all their stats into speed, just be the fastest guy on the field. I might say I really want a balanced player, a lot of speed, a lot of balance, a little bit of agility, whatever. Other guys might say I'm putting all of it into strength and toughness. I'm just going to dominate the line. It's all about how you make the build. Some of you might think that results are the most important thing. That's why Curt Cignetti's trying to hang 56. Some of you might think, SEC fans will almost exclusively think, that resume is going to be it. Look at all these ranked teams that we had to beat. And I think a lot of people feel that way, which is why I said at the beginning of the year, if there's ever going to be a 3-loss at-large team, it's going to be this year, and it's going to be out of the SEC, and it's either going to be South Carolina or Oklahoma, because the back half of their schedule is just ranked team all the way down. And then there's on-field performance. Here's the question I would ask. Of the on-field performance from teams 1 through, let's say, 15, which do you not think go in? Like, which team on-field performance do you look at and go, yeah, that team isn't putting the results down that made me think that's a playoff team? Maybe like Louisville, I think, has got to be in that discussion. I think you can make the argument that Vanderbilt has probably played their way, even at 7-2, even if they win out, probably played their way out of a playoff spot. Like, their ranked wins are LSU. We saw what happened. Mizzou against their backup quarterback. They have a loss to Texas. They have a loss to Alabama. And before that, they didn't play anybody except number 11 South Carolina. And unfortunately, the Gamecocks took a nosedive, so that one doesn't help you. I think Vandy's in that conversation as much as I love the Doors. I think Louisville's in that discussion. We are going to keep analyzing this from 1,000 different angles as we roll on with the radio program today. We've got trade deadline talk we've got to get to, and plenty more. Don't go anywhere. We've got more in the back half of the show. But before we get there, ladies and gentlemen, if doing a sports flash was a sport, Lonzo would win every dunk competition.
I got a tape measure, by the way. We'll figure something out. The first college football playoff rankings have dropped. Ohio State is number 1 ahead of Indiana, Texas A&M, Alabama, and Georgia. Ole Miss is at 6, BYU is 7, followed by Texas Tech, Oregon, Notre Dame, Texas, and Oklahoma at 12. However, the 5th highest conference leader is Memphis, unranked in the CFP poll, who would slide into the 12th seed if the playoffs were today. The NFL trade deadline is passed with a flurry of moves. The Cowboys sent a 2027 first and 2026 second and defensive tackle Motzi Smith to the Jets for former All-Pro Quentin Williams, and added Logan Wilson from the Bengals for a 7th-round pick. The Hornets took their 5th loss of the season, giving New Orleans their first win and a 116-112 contest. Miles Bridges led the Hornets with 22 points, while Con Knipple added 20 on 7 of 16 shooting. Trey Murphy led New Orleans with 21. Okay, it would be really dumb for me to attempt to jump at all because I've had major gout attacks the last couple weeks and I'm really having trouble walking. But I'm also stupid. And because I'm also stupid and willing to try and prove him wrong, I will at least attempt it. Because walking is overrated. Why, yes, Austin, it is. I've got a couple of them. Hopefully he gets back soon. I'll be back. I'm going to go do some measurements. All right, admittedly, that hurt.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it did hurt. It hurt my back
I know.
because I landed on my, anyway.
I know. I really wish I had the camera on for that.
Because you said I couldn't even do that.
No, I said, we'll see if you can. That's not the same as saying I don't think you can. Lonzo swears he can touch an NBA backboard. I don't. And for the record, I don't think I can touch an NBA backboard at this point. I would be impressed by me. But we'll see. We'll see. We're going to measure. We're going to see.
When's the last time you impressed yourself?
No, I mean, come on. Most days, if we're being honest. Ladies and gentlemen, the Rob Brown Show is on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate, hour number 3. We have got a lot to get to on the radio program today. We have got a lot to get to in the world of college football, but I have a couple of news stories. Now, I had a brief issue in that I changed computers this week, got a new laptop, and changed my audio editing software. And unfortunately, as Rob is a big dummy, could not figure out how to get my computer to, with the new software, work the way I needed it to be able to have some sound. So the fingers crossed, with the efforts of one Captain America, Chris Evans, down the hall after the conclusion of today's show, hopefully we'll be able to return to the audio blitz tomorrow. But there are a few stories that I wanted to get to on the show today. I want to start with this one. Rob is a hockey guy. Now, I don't pretend to be like a lifelong hockey fan. I don't pretend to know like everything. I will acknowledge that while I think I know puck, the reality is there's a lot of puck that I still don't know. There's a lot I'm still learning. And I have come to that realization the last couple of days because a dear friend of mine, big hockey guy, convinced me to pick up EA Sports NHL 2026 and play online with him. And I've been trying out different positions playing online and having people like, hey, man, like if you're a right winger, this is how you go in this situation, and you don't come to the mid unless this happens. As a right defender, this is your zone, but you come out of the zone if X, then Y. Learning a lot of hockey.
You're overly analytical when it comes to video games. I just want to point
specifically about sports games, right? Because I play the sport. I play the sport, right? Like when I play Madden and I'm playing quarterback, I'm not just looking out there and seeing what white jersey is the most open. Like I'm progressing reads the best I can. I'm not great at it, but like I'm play it like the game. So as a hockey guy who recently got it, I would say I've been invested in the NHL for like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years, something like that. Right. I was a Predators fan out of the gate. Still love the Preds. Have, adopted the Carolina Hurricanes because they're a bunch of jerks and I appreciate them leaning into that, whatever. I have made it known over the years that there was one hockey player that has drawn ire from me more than any other hockey player. That hockey player is, of course, Brad Marchand, or as he has been affectionately referred to on this show for many years, Brad. Couldn't stand Brad. Can I tell you about a redemption arc? Brad Marchand just recently returned to the Florida Panthers. In fact, returned on Saturday, put a puck in the back of the net for the Panthers on Saturday night, then pointed a finger at the air and looked to the sky. And there was a reason for that. Marchand's 6th goal of the season, the 430th of his career, came 3 days after he was back home in Nova Scotia, Canada, doing family stuff, paying tribute to the life of a 10-year-old girl who was the daughter of his close friend, J.P. McCullum. The young lady passed away, child passed away, and Brad went to the Panthers and said, look, this is my best friend. His daughter died. I've got to go home. And credit to the Panthers, and not that I think there are many, if any, organizations who would have said no. The Panthers said, absolutely. Go on, take your time. So Brad Marchand went back to Nova Scotia with the blessing of the Florida Panthers and didn't just celebrate the life of his best friend's daughter, but J.P. McCullum is the coach of a under-18 hockey team that plays in Halifax that Marchand and J.P. McCullum own together. Marchand owns his team. He runs his team. It's effectively a developmental hockey team where he utilizes his position as an NHL player and celebrity and helps young players be developed to hopefully one day make it to the NHL, the KHL, wherever they might end up playing pro hockey. Marchand went back home and filled in as the head coach of the Halifax Hunters for J.P. McCullum, showed up on the night the Panthers had a game, left the Panthers, went back to Nova Scotia, and coached this developmental team, spent time in the locker room with them, coached them on the bench, coached them through the game itself, spent time afterwards, gave them some stuff to work on, et cetera, took time away from the Panthers to do this. And after the game on Saturday, when asked about the bond with J.P. McCullum and his daughter, et cetera, he said, quote, she lived life to the fullest, and walking away from this week, I have a new perspective on life and what it all means and how precious it is and how precious time is. It's every day. It's not just a game. It's not just a sport. It's how we live every single day, and she lived to the fullest. To carry on her memory, that's what we're going to do. We're going to live every day to the fullest, enjoy it, and we're not going to take it for granted. I like Brad now. He's not Brad anymore. He's not a guy that I spent years calling a rat, because when he was in Boston, he was a rat. because he was in Boston, he was a rat. And talking about him now, both as a player with the Panthers, and don't get me wrong, he's not a dramatically different player. He's older now, so he's not like quite as physical as he used to be, but he's a very antagonistic player. He's going to poke you. He's going to prod you. He's going to hit you in the back. He's going to check you with a stick every now and then when he knows the refs aren't looking, to try to draw you out and make you make a mistake that will get called and put them on the one-man advantage. But to see the dude that he became when he got to Florida, and to see this story where he left the team and said, y'all got this, I got you. When he left the team to go play for, to go coach this squad in Nova Scotia in order to show love to his best friend, to his best friend's daughter, and to take time out of his day to like work with a bunch of U18 hockey players who I'm sure most all of them have aspirations of going pro one day. To show up, to put that much time, energy, and effort in, to be willing to step away from the team, trying to defend the Stanley Cup, and to talk about all of this the way he's talked about it, man, I love that. Like, I love that. I think it's a phenomenal story. I think Brad Marchand deserves a ton of respect for that. I think that the way that he did it, the way he handled it is admirable and commendable. I got to tell you, like, this is a dude that I have done nothing but give a ton of crap to for years and years for how he played hockey. And now I kind of can't help but root for Brad. Like, obviously, I want the Canes to knock off Florida. I want the Canes to go to the Cup representing the East. I'd love for the Canes to bring one back. I got to tell you, I've already told the wife, like, the window's open for Carolina right now, and especially this year. Like, I really like what that team's doing with the injuries to guys like K'Andre Miller that they have right now. Carolina blanked the Rangers. That's a good Rangers team. Blanked the Rangers 3-0 last night. It's a good team. If the if the Canes win a Stanley Cup, especially if we get late into the season, it's like they're obvious that they're an Eastern Conference favorite. I may very well have to eventually suck it up and make the ride up to Raleigh to go to a game. And if they win the Stanley Cup, I may very well go up to Raleigh for the Stanley Cup parade. I think that would be electric. But it's kind of hard not to pull for Brad now. Talk about a revamped image. This guy was one of the most disliked players in the NHL for a very long time. And now it's like, I don't know anybody who doesn't like Brad. And I hated Brad as much as anybody else. And I don't know anybody who doesn't like Brad. The way that he was sent out of Boston to Florida, the way that he embraced it, the way that he became the Florida Panthers, the way he's led that team, and now this off the ice. Like, talk about an image rehab that came about totally organically. I think that's awesome, dude. I think that's awesome. All right. Got another story that I wanted to get to on the radio program this morning. We talked earlier about video gaming, because I work video game references into the show. Lonzo and I are both gamers. He more than and better at it than me, but I refuse to give up even at 40. I suck at the hockey game, by the way. I suck at it. I'm so bad at it. I'm so bad at it, dude. I don't even know how to explain. They have what they call a total control, and then they have the I forget what it's called, something stick. And basically, you control the puck on the player with your right joystick while your left joystick moves around. Can't do it. Can't do it. I suck. I'm awful. Like, the friends in that group are like, yeah, why don't you go back to Helldivers, buddy? Like, this isn't for you. And they're all right. It's terrible.
Well, I think it's one of those things, and you approach a lot of things this way, analytical. Sometimes you just got to feel it and have fun.
I've tried. Can't do it. Now, I bring up video gaming because I love this clip. Kenny Dillingham is the coach of the Arizona State Sun Devils. Now, he is 35 years old. So clearly I screwed up. But Kenny Dillingham right now is kind of my favorite young coach in college football. I think Kenny Dillingham has a very long and very good future ahead of him. And one of the reasons why, remember Rob Brown's construction of a solid, good head coaching career? The foundation is culture. And then you have the 4 pillars built on the foundation. The foundation is culture. And then there's player acquisition, retention, development, and game day execution. Culture is the most important part. That is why it is the foundation ahead of everything else. Because you can recruit well, but if you got a bad culture, you can't retain. If you have a bad culture, you can't develop. And if you can't retain and develop, you can't execute on Saturdays. Culture matters a lot. And one of the things that I've said for a long time, and I know many of you dislike this, and that's okay, but welcome to the world. Things don't work the way that you like them to work every time. One of the realities we are seeing take place in the world right now is the fact that players have more autonomy than they've ever had before. They have more authority over their own lives they've ever had before. And they are, more than ever before, encouraged to express and be themselves, be authentic. Well, one of the aspects of culture is authenticity. Said that about Lane Kiffin earlier this week. One of the reasons I love Lane Kiffin is while his authentic self back in the day was kind of, let's say, polarizing, Lane Kiffin today, I don't know anybody who's not kind of pulling for Joey Freshwater right now. I got a clip from him. I'll try to get it later in the show that he was talking about how in Mississippi, he said it's a light press conference, and he just found out that it was the opening day of squirrel season. And in Mississippi, you can bag 8 squirrels a day, and people in Mississippi absolutely eat squirrel. I'm from Louisiana. We do too. So
yeah, I've ate squirrel before.
yeah,
too.
it's good. It's not bad.
It's South Carolina. Probably a lot of people here have ate squirrel.
100%. So he was like, "Oh, light turnout today. I just found out it's the open day." It's really funny. And you add in all the other. It's been the summer of Lane, and now the fall of Lane, and now I guess the winter of Lane. It's been fun. I pulled for the guy because he's authentic. Kenny Dillingham's authentic too. Let me tell you why. You want to recruit a kid, you come to their level, right? Like, I think that if you're going to say, if you want to be on my team, you got to come to my level, you better have some titles on the books. And even still, I still think you'd be better off to meet a kid at their level, to talk to them at their level, to talk to them about what benefits them, how it will benefit them long-term to play for you, and to do so in a way that they understand, that connects with them. You know, it's kind of the difference between the teacher that you had in high school that talked as if they were a college professor giving a lecture versus the teacher that you had in high school that broke it down to a high schooler's level. Those are the teachers we learn from. Kenny Dillingham was doing an interview with Adam Brenneman, and he asked, Brenneman did, Kenny Dillingham about his recruiting tactics. And Kenny Dillingham gave one of his number one recruiting tools. And I did not turn over the sound thing again. Dadgummit. It's a new computer. Leave me alone. Let me get that fixed up.
Yeah,
hopefully.
because that's never been a problem before.
Never before. It's a new computer.
All right.
Here's Kenny Dillingham, his number one recruiting tool.
Teach you an NCAA, whoever wants to play. My gamer tag is my name. Like, I'll play you.
You play Madden and NCAA 25 with some recruits?
I do.
Yeah. Are you good?
I am good. If the play that should actually work in real football doesn't work in the video game, I get really upset.
Yeah.
That's the time that I get mad. I'm like, this is the perfect call. But I do. I enjoy it because at the end of the day, competition's competition. And I want to see the players that we're recruiting in competition. I want dudes to be upset if they're losing. I don't want dudes to be comfortable not being good at things. Like, you should love competition.
Yeah.
So I always compete with recruits in whatever I'm allowed to do.
I love it. I love it.
I'm trying to figure out the version of Sweet Dreams in the background.
It's
because it's not 9 Inch Nails.
No.
And it's definitely not Eurythmics.
It's some generic thing that people put on the back of their social media videos because you can search by sound, so it gives you a bump in the algorithm. Social media is dumb, and I hate it because that's a great clip, and you got to layer this dumbass song so loud over the back.
It's a good song, by the way. I think it's cool. The stigma that adults don't play video games, that's been gone a long time ago, as the generations have gone past all that, and the people like me who are around for Pong and have played video games for every generation. It's the way to reach kids for sure.
Yeah, I think that there is some element for those of us that grew up with it. And again, like, I think Lonzo was the Atari generation. I think I was the regular Nintendo generation. After us, you had the Super NES generation, the Dreamcast generation, the Xbox generation, whatever. And I think for those of us, specifically those of us that quite literally grew up with video games and it was a huge part of our lives, like, it is becoming more normalized, whatever. But like, this isn't even about that. It is about the fact that, and listen, Kenny Dillingham's 35 years old. Like, he's in prime. I play Madden with the boys territory, right? He's younger than me. Prime, I play Madden with the boys territory. But to recognize that you can have a conversation with a recruit while you play Madden. And keep in mind, and again, I'm sure that this, playing on an Xbox Live party chat probably still has to adhere to NCAA rules about contact and no contact and communications and no communications, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're in a window where you can talk to recruits and they're sitting in their living room in, Albuquerque, New Mexico, and you're trying to get them to come out to Arizona State.
Hey man, that's my favorite play that we call here. I bet you could run that play in real life.
Sure.
Is that kind of a? I mean,
I'm sure that's part of it. In fact, the most Rob Brown part about that, and I absolutely love this because you addressed this earlier without even knowing I was coming to this, was when he said, "I get real mad when a play that's the perfect call in real life and would work doesn't work because it's a video game." Yeah, me too. Me too. I get furious. I go, wait a minute. You're playing single high safety, and I just run a flood concept to the left-hand side. That should bring your safety over and throw me a middle route, and that's not there because your cornerback on the other side completely abandoned his role. Like, no, it shouldn't have worked.
Which actually happens in real life too. It does.
Yeah, but it's not the same.
Sometimes,
you would have
sometimes
addressed it like you did if you knew that.
Sometimes the perfect play. What I'm saying is sometimes the perfect play is called, and it should work, and it doesn't.
So that being said, I loved all that, but here's what I love about this. Me and the fellas, like the guys, the boys, like my close circle. Most of us are married. Most of us have kids. Like, we're not at a spot like we were in our 20s where I could text somebody at 6 p.m. and be like, yo, want to meet at the bar in 2 hours and watch Monday Night Football, watch Thursday Night Football. That's not our lives anymore. We can't do that. What we can do, however, is pop on the Xbox at 10 o'clock and play a game of NHL 26, or pop on and play Madden, or pop on and play college football, and absolutely talk a bunch of to each other. And that's bro bonding, right? And that works. What I love about this is that Kenny Dillingham has figured out a way to get into the ears of potential recruits and spend significant time with them and talk football and get them to be competitive. But I got to tell you, you want to know the best way to bond with a bro? Talk to them. Like, that's what we do. And Kenny Dillingham is straight up saying, like, yeah, like, I'm pushing him. I'm trying to whoop that ass. I want him to get mad. I want to see where they play. But I'm telling you, at the same time as that is happening and he's finding out who they are as a competitor and who they are as a person, he is building a bond with them, man. Like, I have 2 or 3 dudes that I consider myself good friends with. I've never met because we bumped into each other on a video game lobby X amount of years ago. And we had a great time playing, and now all we've done is play video games. Never met the person in my life, but we have a good time. We've built that bond over this. I love this because Kenny Dillingham has just shown you, if you go find a way to build a bond with a player outside of your generation, and it hooks them, they're on board. And again, Arizona State is a Cam Skattebo away from being back in the playoffs again this year. They're outside right now, but Cam Skattebo had him there. All he's got to do is hit on another Cam Skattebo, and the Sun Devils are right back. I absolutely love it. All right, back after this on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Rob is not headed to church after the show today. Well, I am. I'm headed to the Church of Chelsea. WWE superstar Chelsea Green will be joining us at 10:30 today. We'll record that and play it back for you probably tomorrow. But, yeah, I'm excited about it. The world's greatest living American is Canadian, and she'll be joining us on the show today. Looking forward to it. That game was awesome last night. I put it on when I was doing the BetMGM interview, and then I stuck around for the end. It was a great game. Third goal was phenomenal. Great story from Brad. Tough to dislike Brad after that. And go look at some of the Marchand interviews with the boys from NHL on TNT, man. Like, the dude's objectively hilarious. Chirps at the boys. It's great. It's great. All right, stay right there, fellas. We'll be right back. The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. I was going to say back in your radio. I mean,
yeah, technically.
Not incorrect.
Well, for sure.
Back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. We have kind of been flipping all over the sports world as of late. LSU has decided to make their interim athletic director, Verge Ausberry. They're now permanent athletic director. Took the interim tag off of him.
Verge.
New School president Wade Rouse made the decision yesterday on his first day in office to make him the permanent athletic director. The former LSU linebacker had been connected to the university for more than 30 years, named interim AD after Scott Woodward and the school mutually agreed to separate. And by mutually, I mean Jeff Landry said that guy sucks, and the school went, oh, this is awkward. And Woodward said, hey, you guys, and the school went, that's fair. Here's your buyout. Goodbye. That's how it played out in my head. So Ausberry said last week that he has full authority to hire the Tigers' next football coach. He told reporters on Friday that a search committee had already been formed to identify Brian Kelly's replacement after he was fired last month, dropping a 49-25 decision at home against Texas A&M. Ausberry was the executive deputy athletic director under Woodward. He is a member of the search committee for a new coach, along with LSU Board of Supervisors Chairman Scott Ballard, other board members, and donors. I am just going to say this. Do I particularly care about an interim tag being taken off of a guy who played there, has been there for a long time, connected to the program for better 30 years, has been in the athletic department for a number of years, was the second highest ranking guy in the athletic department? No. Do I think they got the right hire? To be honest with you, I don't know. I'm sure there's some LSU podcasters that have very deep opinions about this. I don't know. The LSU coaching hire, I think, might turn into the most interesting coaching search in recent memory. Realistically, I think it might turn into the most interesting coaching search in recent memory. I thought FSU, after Jimbo Fisher went to Texas A&M, was very interesting because Florida State was a little bit taken by surprise by it, but also not, because Jimbo Fisher had kind of quit on the program about 3-4 months before his last year as the head coach. That's why recruiting took a nosedive. I still to this day say the problems that FSU is having right now largely stem from that, however many years ago that was. And the coaching search for FSU was interesting because Jimbo Fisher screwed the program so hard on his way out the door that, I mean, they had money, but like they did not have what Florida State usually had. And it created a world where they ended up just having to get a guy. And now Willie Taggart had some level of success at, FAU. Then he had his 1 year at Oregon, and they weren't bad. They weren't good, but you could chalk it up to, all right, it was his first and 1 year on the job. They paid a bunch of money to Oregon to get Willie Taggart to come down, which created the runaway effect that they have now of having a bargain shop for coaches. Willie Taggart, though it wasn't entirely a bargain, which is why they had a low buyout and they could move on after however many games it was from Willie Taggart, but they didn't have to pay him a buyout. And that created a world where they had to bargain hunt for their next coach. And that created the world where they had to get Mike Norvell out of Memphis. Now, Mike Norvell had success at Memphis. And I very much remember, as I was covering Florida State at the time, when all of this was going down, the folks at Memphis were quite excited for Mike Norvell and quite disappointed when he left. And we're telling Florida State fans, like, you got yourself a good one. The guy's a great guy. And here's the thing, Mike Norvell, from every anecdotal story I've heard from him, Mike Norvell is a great guy. Mike Norvell's a stellar human being. He's just not working out as a great head coach. Now, again, maybe something flipped. The Noles win 42-7 over Wake. Like Florida State Clemson being played at 6 p.m. on the ACC network so that the ACC can hide the no ratings that they get from 2, 3, and 5 teams matching up is now, to me, a compelling game because one of those two teams is walking out of their 4-5 and needing 2 of the last 3 to make a bowl game. One's walking out of their 3-5, having to win out and probably not going bowling. And while going bowling to me, like, okay, you were 500, good job, right? Like I don't look, if I was an AD at a school, I don't know that I would ever hang a banner in the rafters of my stadium for winning the, Shreveport Ice Cream Bowl or whatever. But some schools do. Anyway, the point is, a lot of the reason that I think that Florida State struggled at that point was because Florida State was working with a president, I believe it was still John Thrasher at the time, who was in the conspiracy theory minded amongst the Florida State faithful, was a former ACC exec and who Florida State fans believed had a deeper level of loyalty to the ACC than he did to Florida State. If he was either a Duke alum or like worked for Duke and then he got to the ACC, whatever the story was. The point is they felt there was more loyalty to the ACC. And the rumor went around that part of the reason they had to go with Willie Taggart, and in fairness, Willie Taggart again had some level of success and was being looked at the time as a hot prospect, was because there was so much turmoil and controversy inside of the Florida State athletic department that the big name coaches that ordinarily would have been on Florida State's radar in years gone by maybe weren't interested because they looked at the athletic department, not just its failures, but they looked at the athletic department and said, you got a bunch of people telling me I can't trust your president to make the right decision. I can't trust your athletic director to make the right decision. You got a bunch of people that are looking at this school and telling me the hierarchy of power over me as the football coach is like questionable at best, bad at worst. And then on top of that, it's not exactly like you have a blue chip roster of players here, right? Like, it's not exactly like, okay, maybe I got to deal with the president and an AD who butt heads with me, but hey, I'm taking over a championship caliber roster. It wasn't that way. The roster wasn't good. They lost all the players from the 2013 run before Jimbo left. And they ended up in a spot where Jimbo didn't recruit, so they had nobody coming up to develop either. And so again, rumor around Tallahassee, take it with a grain of salt, was that Florida State was on the outs as far as hiring a good next head coach. And they were on the outs as far as hiring a good next head coach because of administrative problems, because of people in the office that weren't directly connected to the football program outside of being its overseer. So the LSU thing is now very interesting to me because, as I've said before, I think when everything is normal, I think LSU is the best job in the country. I think LSU has probably more money, but certainly as much money as anybody else. They have the best facilities in college football, bar none. And as I've mentioned, recruiting in Louisiana should be wildly easy. You want to know why Ed Orgeron had so much success in Louisiana? The reason Ed Orgeron had so much success in Louisiana was because Ed Orgeron, don't go Tigers. Ed Orgeron from Louisiana. He know how to talk to the kids from Louisiana. He know how to go out to the crawfish boil. He know how to say, man, the little Tony Satcher over there, had a little Zataran over there. We're going to make the crawfish as good as they can be. Go Tigers. He knew how to talk to kids from Louisiana because he was from Louisiana. And so Ed Orgeron, after taking over from Les Miles and having a pretty good roster left behind for him, was also able to stack kids out of Louisiana, specifically, as I mentioned before, the 2 and the 3 stars that ultimately fill out your roster behind the 4 and the 5 stars, whether you get them or you don't. Brian Kelly couldn't do that. And now that all of that is over, in a spot where you would think we need to hire a coach who's like Kenny Dillingham. He's young. He gets it. He knows how to communicate with players. He knows how to talk them into and out of the portal as necessary. He knows how to help them with the NIL stuff. He's going to be aggressive. He's going to talk to them on their level and have that conversation with them, et cetera, et cetera. That's all well and good. But if you're a young coach, because I got to tell you, I thought about it last night. Kenny Dillingham should be a target, right? I got a clip from Steve Sarkisian where he said we got all these schools firing coaches. A quarter of the schools in the SEC don't have a head coach right now. He said, who are you going to hire? I was like, Kenny Dillingham, you should be able to pay more than Arizona State does if you're in the SEC. And he's 35 years old, which means if he's good, he's there for a lifetime. And now he's showing you that like he knows how to talk to the kids. But if I'm Kenny Dillingham, do I want to go play? Do I want to go coach for LSU? Do I want to go to a place at LSU where if I have a struggle, especially for like 2 years while I get the program up and running again from a disaster that it is right now, if it doesn't turn around quick, the governor might be involved. If it doesn't turn around quick, the AD, who is only in that position indirectly perhaps, but because of the governor is involved. You know he's going to protect his spot, right? Do I want that job? This is going to be a very interesting illustration of the schools have to keep their houses in order, because when schools like Indiana are handing out $96 million contracts, you're not just going to be able to say, hey, we're LSU, come coach here anymore. Like Arizona State will find money to make him a top 3, 4, 5 paid head coach if that's what it takes to keep him. So I'm really interested in LSU and where the direction of all of the coaching search goes. In a weird way, I'm almost kind of excited about the end of the season for it. All right, let's take a break. When we come back here in just a minute, I've teased it. We get to it next. What schools inside the top 25 of the playoff rankings have the most difficult and the easiest paths to get there? And what does the ranking say about where the conferences are? That's coming up next on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. All right, dudes, got to make a phone call. Stay right there for me. A lot of time this AM on college football. Talking about Brian Kelly real quick, and then I'm going to get to the easiest and toughest path to the college football playoffs here in just a moment. Talking about Brian Kelly, and I pointed out, Ed Orgeron had a lot of success at LSU because he was from Louisiana. He's from the Bayou. He was from that area, and so he was able to talk to the kids from Louisiana.
You're do amazing with that, but I think it's hurting you.
It's not helping.
Yeah, because
not helping.
you got to have some voice left.
Yeah.
We got a show to do and an interview to do today. Come on.
So I made the point that I think that helped Ed Orgeron being able to communicate with kids, not just on their level, but like on the level, like I'm from where you're from. Like I'm from this area. And that's how he's able to successfully recruit LSU and go win a title. So we had a texter and I said, Brian Kelly's fraudulent. Like he never bought into the culture. Texter said, home is where you make it. And I agree with that. Home is where you make it. I'm a total believer in that. But I also believe that for home to be where you make it, it does not mean that you have to get rid of your culture and what's important to you on a personal level. But I do think to some degree it requires you to embrace where you are. It's not home if you don't embrace it, right? Like this is why, for instance, I don't get upset with people who move to the US but still have pride in where they are from. That doesn't bother me at all. I get it. I am from Louisiana. I have great pride in being from Louisiana, being a New Orleans kid. That being said, I fully embrace where I am. You go to my house, there's a Saints flag out front. We've got Fleur de Lis decorations all over my house. But I fully embrace South Carolina. I fully embrace the upstate. Like it is where home is because I've made of that. I've made that. So with that being said, Brian Kelly didn't do that. And I think there's a lot of coaches who don't do that. And it ultimately costs them. You can bring your elements of coaching with you, but you still have to be able to communicate with the people, specifically the fans and the boosters and the players from your area. Because if they don't feel like their identity and their area, their region, their community, their school is important to you, they're not going to line up behind you. And if they don't line up behind you, they're not going to help push you forward. That's just what it is. Lane Kiffin is fully bought into being an Oxford, Mississippi guy. And you can tell that's why they've lined up behind him. It's not just that he's a good coach. It's that he's bought in. But he's also brought his elements of coaching and his elements of culture with him. And I think that was important as well. All right, so I want to take a look at the college football playoffs. And let's talk about who have the toughest and the easiest paths to make sure they are locked into a spot. Let's start at the top. Let's start with Ohio State. Left ahead of them at Purdue, back home for UCLA, back home for Rutgers, on the road at Michigan. On paper, not much left ahead of Ohio State.
Except for Michigan.
Except for Michigan, which is why I said on paper, because on paper, yeah, it's a road trip to the number 21 team in the country. On paper, Michigan they're fine. They're not what they were 2 years ago. They're not what they were last year. They're fine. But of course it is the game. And like many rivalry games, this is a game where regularly we have a bad team beat a good team, or a good team beat a great team. Occasionally a bad team beat a great team. That being said, there's not a loss in Purdue, UCLA, and Rutgers ahead for Ohio State. And one loss, they are locked in. Now, will they be locked in as a Big Ten champ? Because if they lose to Michigan, that would make both of those teams 5-1. Michigan gets the tiebreaker. Michigan could go to the Big Ten championship.
That, of course, is if Michigan were to go undefeated, and that's what if
Michigan loses or wins out between here and there. Which, yes, that is a good question. Michigan has Northwestern, Maryland, and Ohio State. So, probably, there's a very good chance that the consensus number one right now doesn't even make it to their conference championship game if Michigan beats them, because Michigan would take that spot. They're still going to the playoffs.
I was going to say, which happened last year, and then they won the whole thing.
Yeah, so they're still going to the playoffs.
They didn't win. They lost to Michigan, and they were ranked. I can't remember where Ohio State was ranked. It was 1, 2, or 3, and they lost to Michigan. They got knocked down. They ended up, what'd you say, the 8th seed in the play, and had a really hard road, and they were able to make it through and win a championship.
Yeah. I think they would be fine. Indiana at number 2, at Penn State, back home for Wisconsin and Purdue. I don't think there's a loss there for Indiana.
Probably not.
I do. And even if Indiana loses a game, they're undefeated overall and in conference, meaning that they would likely still be a Big Ten championship participant.
So who would it hurt between Indiana and Ohio State? who would the loss hurt the most if they play when they play in the Big Ten championship?
It would. I think the answer would be actually. I think the answer would be if you're Indiana, I think you're pulling for Michigan because I'd rather play Michigan in the Big Ten title game than Ohio State. Ohio State's a wagon. I'd rather play Michigan. Ohio State would still be in, but if you're Indiana, you're putting a buffer between yourself and the Buckeyes because you don't have to play them in the Big Ten title game, and you don't have to play them in probably if they go 8-9. You probably don't have to play them until you get to the national championship game, assuming both teams do. So I think Indiana's going to be big Michigan fans at the end of the year. So I think Ohio State is locked in. I just don't think they're locked in as Big Ten championship winners because they will have to, if they don't get by Michigan, they won't be Big Ten title winners. They're probably going again to the 8-9 seed. Maybe they end up like a 5-6, but I think they're probably like an 8-9 seed, depending on what happens with the other teams in that market. They could be going in and having to play in the opening round weekend. Texas A&M left ahead of them. Number 22, Mizzou at home. That's on the road. Back home for South Carolina and Samford. And then on the road at number 11, Texas. Here's the spot you have. We talked about this game on BetMGM tonight last night. This Mizzou Texas A&M game 3 weeks ago was circled in red. Like this game could be really good because at Mizzou, and that's a good Mizzou team, especially at home, that could screw the whole thing up.
You mean
Mizzou,
3 weeks from now?
No. 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
Because since then, they have now lost their starter and backup quarterback.
Okay.
So Mizzou is now on their third string true freshman, never played a game quarterback going into this game. Here's the wild thing. They opened as a 5.5-point dog. It's now moved to 7. Is there a world that Mizzou is within 10 of Texas A&M? I just don't see it. I don't know what the number is that would make me flip to a plus Mizzou bet. It's not there. South Carolina, wild card at this point. Because again, if South Carolina's offense, with Mike Shula being relieved of his duties, looks like the 3.5 quarters they played and led Alabama, and we go, okay, so it really was Shula, that's a wild card team. And if that opens up and Lenore Sellers can do to A&M what he did to Alabama, and he can because A&M's good, about as good as Alabama, that could be a real interesting wild card. That game at Texas, though, because all the games that Texas has played well and we've gone, oh, okay, there it is, all those have been home games for the Texas Longhorns. They've all been home games. So at Texas makes that game very interesting, and let's keep it a buck. The Longhorns are currently ranked number 11. They're not out of this thing. Like they're a playoff lock or a playoff team right now if they win out, because that means that somebody else has got to take an L somewhere. So that spot is very interesting for the Ags because Mizzou is down to the third string quarterback. South Carolina is nowhere near what we hoped and expected that they would be, which means it's going to come down to Texas to keep up Oklahoma out, And keep in mind, if Oklahoma was to win out, if A&M was to win out, that would include a loss to or a win over Texas, which would remove Texas from the playoff spot and probably open up a spot for Oklahoma. So the Boomer Sooners are big Aggie fans now as well. I think Alabama's already locked. Now, obviously, they will have to try to win the SEC title to keep the bye because I can't guarantee that the SEC winner is a top 4 team with the straight seeding. But I think if it's Alabama, certainly they are. If it's not Alabama, they're not getting the bye because I think the other teams good enough to beat Alabama are all close enough in the rankings. Georgia, Ole Miss, are all A&M. They're all in the rankings enough that you would say, okay, Bama's going to drop from that spot, probably still in the field, but drop from that spot, which means they would lose a bye. That being said, I don't see them losing to LSU. I don't see them losing to Oklahoma. Like maybe, again, another one, like 6 weeks ago before John Mateer's hand surgery, I think I'd have said maybe a slightly in Oklahoma because John Mateer can outduel Ty Simpson. Turns out Ty Simpson's maybe the best quarterback in the conference, and John Mateer, since the surgery, doesn't have the accuracy that he had before. So I think they're beating Oklahoma, Eastern Illinois, and at Auburn, who doesn't have a head coach. I think Alabama's in. The only question mark is going to be, do they play for / do they win an SEC title game when we've got 4 teams all towards the top that could all end up being one-loss teams? Speaking of, one of those is Georgia. Mississippi State back home for Texas, Charlotte, and Georgia Tech. The wild cards obviously here are going to be Texas and Georgia Tech. Now, let's not overlook Mississippi State because Mississippi State had Texas dead to rights until they didn't and lost in overtime. That's a tough little hard-headed team. Like Georgia better be ready for that game this weekend, but Texas is coming to your house. And you know what Georgia's defense is, just a bunch of disruptors. I'm not particularly worried about Georgia, Texas. I think Georgia's got that one in the back. The Georgia Tech game in Atlanta is interesting, though, because it will be At best, if you're Tech, it's a 50-50 split. At best. It's probably like 60-40 Georgia fans in the building for a Tech home game. But here's the thing. On one hand, Tech's been an absolute wagon. On one hand, Tech last year, not as good as Tech this year, took a Georgia team, better last year than the Georgia team this year, to 8 overtimes before they ultimately lost that football game, and they're better this year. So I don't know that Georgia's a guarantee, because I do think Georgia is in a spot that with the loss to Bama, with Tennessee taking a few more losses as one of their ranked wins, basically their quality wins on this schedule are at Tennessee. Sure, I'll give it to you, but it was a shootout against a team that's now a 3-loss team and out of the mix. They lost to Bama. They were in a shootout with Auburn that most of us think was pretty controversial in its finish. Their quality win is Ole Miss. They will have to get Texas, who is again in a playoff spot, and Georgia Tech. I don't think Georgia, like I like Georgia. In fact, I picked Georgia to win the SEC. I don't think it's an easy call for them. Ole Miss has left ahead of them the Citadel, Florida, and Mississippi State. Honestly, I think Ole Miss is fine. And not just do I think that Ole Miss is fine, but with Georgia having Texas and Georgia Tech, and with Texas A&M having to go to Texas, there's a dramatically greater than 0% chance Ole Miss could very well be an SEC championship team this year. And I think if they go, whether it's against Georgia, Bama, or Texas A&M, I think they've got a decent chance to win the thing. That being said, they're not going to lose in the regular season. They are locked into the playoff. The question is, are they going in as a top 4 seed with an SEC title, or are they going in somewhere in the middle as an at-large? Probably that one. But overall, they really only need a little bit of help in the SEC to get to the title game, be at least second, and maybe that would pump them up into seed number 5 or 6 and give themselves the best possible run all the way through. Let's go at least one more before we get out for a break. BYU at number 7, 8-0, first place in the Big 12. They are likely your Big 12 championship winner, except for Texas Tech is right there, 5-1, 8-1 overall. And Texas Tech did not have their starting quarterback and a couple of skill position players for their one loss. The Utah Utes are an interesting team. They were in a dogfight with Colorado. They put up 69 on Portland State. They were in a bit of a dogfight until late with West Virginia. They got by Utah. The Utes are right up there in consideration. Now it's Texas Tech. This game for the BYU Cougars, this game might be the game that determines if they are a playoff team or not. Because while 8-1 could still get them in, the loss to Texas Tech, even though that is a top 12 team, I think BYU would be fighting for the last at-large playoff spot or 10-11, depending on who the G5 rep is at that point. I think they'd be fighting because outside of Texas Tech, the only other ranked game they have is Utah. It was a fist fight, but it was at home and they did win it. It's a quality win. Outside of that, there is nothing on the resume for BYU. I like this team. I like Bear Bachmeier. I love the run game of BYU. Like it's old school 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I love the BYU Cougars, but if they lose to Texas Tech, there is, to me, nothing left for them to fall back on and go, but, like you had one win over Utah, but so does Texas Tech, and they won that game 34-10. Utah right now is the number 13 team in the country at 7-2. I don't know if Utah's getting out of this thing without another L as well. So this, to me, feels like an eliminator this weekend. Feels like an eliminator between both of these teams. It feels like an eliminator between BYU and Texas Tech. I think the loser is out, to be honest with you. All right, let's take a break. When we come back to start off the next hour, we will continue with number 8, Texas Tech. We will roll through Oregon, Notre Dame, Texas, Oklahoma, Utah, Virginia, and the rest. We'll do that next. Then we'll wrap up the hour with some NFL trade deadline thoughts, a little bit more football, whatever you want to get to on the phone lines. That is all coming up in the next hour of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, sit back, relax, enjoy the next 60 seconds. It might be the highlight of your day as Lonzo brings you a sports flash. Breaking news in the sports flash. This is really compelling. We are all anxious.
Breaking news. We will be interviewing Chelsea Green today at 10:30. So check that out. The NFL trade deadline has passed with a flurry of moves. The Cowboys sent a 2027 first and a 2026 second. And defensive tackle Mozzie Smith to the Jets for former All-Pro Quentin Williams and added Logan Wilson from the Bengals for a 7th. Jacksonville picked up Jacoby Myers from Las Vegas in return for a 4th and a 6th. Seattle grabbed Rashid Shaheed from New Orleans for a 4th and 5th rounder. The Hornets took their 5th loss of the season, giving New Orleans their first win in a 116-112 contest. Miles Bridges led the Hornets with 22 points, while Con Knipple added 20 on 7 of 16 shooting. And the Carolina Hurricanes shook off a fistful of injuries for a 3-0 shutout win over the New York Rangers. Nicola Ehlers, Seth Jarvis, and Sean Walker all scored, which is pretty good. By the way, if you guys have any questions for us to ask Chelsea Green, send those in. No guarantees, but do our best to try to ask them. It's so interesting to see how these interviews are going to go. You pretty much know with sports, you just don't know with wrestling. It's always going to be fun, but in what direction will it go? And no, Stephen, I am not going to change into a tie because I am not going to kiss up. I know someone else is. Okay, it's a female wrestler, and I don't think we need to be asking that question. But maybe Rob will. All those things, Jonathan, are just total coincidence. I'm sure will not factor into any decision that may be made.
He said he wears a visor because of Steve Spurrier.
I agree with Rob. I don't think he's going anywhere. Doesn't mean he ain't gonna get some more money though. Here we go. Did you see Freddie Freeman's worm?
Yes, it's electric.
The landing though afterwards
and a torque at the end. I mean, just top-notch performance from Freddie Freeman.
QC in the first break.
QC Kinetics in the first break.
QC Kinetics in the first break. Hi, my name's Rob.
What? The final hour of the Rob Brown Show goes now, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. I don't know what you want me to say to you.
Oh no.
I don't know what you want me to say. Like, it was bad to start, and now we're 3 hours into this gimmick.
I apologize. Somehow those monster strong lozenges have been removed from my bag.
It's all good.
Or I would offer you one.
I've got regular ones in the office, and I will tell you that between the end of the show coming up here in 51 51 minutes, 59 minutes.
You're not going to like hit the, what is that, nip? Is that
No.
what that's called?
I have got a bag of regular launches in there, and I'm pretty sure I'm just going to go through them like M&Ms on the way through. Because, ladies and gentlemen, coming up at 10:30 today,
Get a heated towel and put it around your throat.
I may head across the street and see if there's a bar that'll give me a 10:15 a.m. hot toddy, whatever I got to do. Because coming up at 10:30 this a.m., Lonzo and I are going to pop on to the interwebs, and we will be sitting down to record an interview with WWE superstar Chelsea Green. I wish I could do it the right way. Can't, but what are you going to do? We'll be talking with Chelsea Green, the first and longest reigning and greatest U.S. Women's American champion, U.S. champion.
I'm a little nervous. I'm nervous.
I'm not. I get
I'm
this.
nervous about this. I'm nervous about Friday.
Everyone that I have talked to has said that she's just like, she's incredible and she makes it easy. So I'm excited about that. And she, of course, is set for an opportunity taking on Julia to win her U.S. title back and become the first, second, and fourth women's U.S. champion. Excited to talk to Chelsea Green at 10:30. We'll play that for you tomorrow. And then coming up on Friday, live on the show at 8 a.m. and live in studio, Jade Cargill will be here as well. WWE superstar Jade Cargill will join us. She, of course, is currently getting after my homie Tiffy time.
All right, here's the thing. We always forget to do this. We always forget when they're in studio to have them bring out the belt. And they always bring the championship with them. And we're just having so much fun that we forget to ask them to bring it out.
Here's my thing. I don't forget. I just don't do it.
Okay.
I don't forget. I just don't do it. I did it with Gunther. I did it with Damian. I don't forget. I just don't do it. And it's for two reasons. Number one, that like, while obviously we are fans, and the reason that WWE goes out of their way to get wrestlers on this show particularly is because we have built this great relationship with them because we are fans who do a good show. But there is still a line between they know we're a fan and just outright being a fanboy. Like I refuse, even for stuff that I love, I refuse to be an outright fanboy. And so, Gunther, can I see the belt? Like that's fanboy.
Here's the problem. I don't care about that. I have never held a WWE belt before, ever. I mean, not a replica, not any. I never have done that, and I just think it would be kind of in my mind, I think of how heavy it would be. I mean, it's really a physics thing. I want to know how heavy it is. I'm curious about how it feels, all that kind of stuff, and I always forget because I'm not worried about all that stuff. And I get what you're saying, and I don't care how I look as far as that goes. I've never got to hold one. I would like to hold a championship belt once.
We'll see if Jade Cargill brings.
I think I'm more afraid to ask her than I would have Damian Priest or Gunther.
Well, maybe Mr. Chance then. We'll see. We'll find out. All right, we were talking college football on the way out. I'd like to run through the rest of the potential playoff teams, taking a look at who's got the easiest and the most difficult path to lock themselves into the 12-team bracket for the postseason. We have made it up now to number 8. The Texas Tech Red Raiders. Listen, Texas has the one loss. It's to Kenny Dillingham's Arizona State Sun Devils. They lost 26-22 on the road at Arizona State. But as we mentioned, missing their starting quarterback, Baron Morton, in that game. I believe they were missing their starting running back in that game as well. Like they were down some dudes. They were down some guys in that spot. So with that being said, they still have a loss. And the loss is still going to ding them. I do believe that Texas Tech is in an eliminator game this weekend with BYU. BYU is also in a playoff spot right now. BYU is another team with one loss. BYU is a team that very much could end up winning the Big 12. In fact, BYU and Texas Tech, as it stands right now, are both in position to make it to the Big 12 championship game. However, one of these teams is going to take loss number 2. And let me tell you where I think the playoffs could get completely and totally upended here. Right now, Memphis is locked in as the G5 champ that would get the 12th seat. Where this whole thing could get interesting and upended is that one of these teams, BYU is 5-0. They would go to 5-1. But Cincinnati's also 5-1, meaning that it is an eliminator game for Tech. I think it might, even though it would be their first loss, I think it would create a world where BYU would probably have to win the Big 12 championship to get in. I could see them dropping down to 12 with a loss here and end up being the first team bumped out by the G5 champ getting spot number 12. And if that is the case, it might make a world where BYU has to win the Big 12. If they win this game, over Texas Tech, they probably won't need to win the Big 12. They probably just would be good enough to go and make sure it's a close game and still get in as like number 11, number 10. But without it, they have to win. Texas Tech's in the same boat. If they lose to BYU, I think Texas Tech then has to win the Big 12. And the problem that Texas Tech has is that they will have zero runway after that because the Cincinnati Bearcats are 5-1 in conference too. And they would have identical records at that point. In fairness, they don't play each other, but it could create a possible world where if they stumble again, Cincinnati could take their spot in the Big 12 championship game. And if Cincinnati takes that spot, I don't think Texas Tech is going. And for a team that has been really good all year long, to get bounced because you played, unfortunately for you, a very stubborn defense in the game where your starting QB and best skill position players were out, I don't think there's a bounce back for that for the Texas Tech Raiders. We'll find out. Number 9 in the playoff rankings are the Oregon Ducks. Look, let's keep it a buck with Oregon here. I like the Ducks. I've already told you I very much love Dan Lanning. I think Dan Lanning, much like Kenny Dillingham, one of the better young coaches in the game. I think there's going to be a lot of time that the Ducks are guided by Dan Lanning. Dante Moore is good, but I think he's fallen off a little bit. Like he was a Heisman threat. In fact, I think he was the shortest odds to win the Heisman for a hot minute there. But I think that Dante Moore's fallen off a little bit. Oregon's still a good football team. The problem Oregon is going to bump into is, assuming they beat Iowa this weekend, it is on the road, it is at Iowa. And Iowa's got that, obviously, that very stubborn defense that wants the games to finish, 14-10. Assuming they beat Iowa this weekend, they've got USC and they've got Washington out in front of them. Sitting where they are at number 9 at 7-1, sitting where they are right now outside of the Big Ten championship game. I'm not saying they can't get back into it, but right now outside of the Big Ten championship game and without facing, they've already played and lost to Indiana, without facing the other two teams who are right now, just because they play more conference games ahead of them, I don't know that there's a path there for Oregon. I think Oregon has to be perfect. I don't think there's runway for Oregon. I think Oregon has to be perfect. And I think a large part of the reason Oregon has to be perfect is because, unfortunately for them, with Penn State crapping the bed, with Iowa being a top 20 team, but not necessarily a well-respected one, with Lincoln Riley's USC Trojans being, again, a good but not respected team, and with Washington hanging out at, Washington's 6-2, 3-2 in conference. Like, it's a good team, but it's not the Huskies when Kalen DeBoer was there with Michael Penix Jr. a few years ago. I don't think there's room for an Oregon loss anywhere. I think Oregon finishing 10-2 might put them outside of the playoff spots because of how many teams are going to be in at 10-2. I think it might bump the Oregon Ducks. So I think Oregon, I'm not going to say it's a tough path, but I think they have to go 4-0 down the stretch. And 3 of those 4 are against ranked 1 or 2 lost teams out of the Big Ten. Unfortunately for Oregon, the schedule is backloaded with their better teams. And even still, there's 0 quality wins right now because of Penn State. 0 quality wins for the Ducks right now. So I don't know what happens with them. I don't think there's room for a loss. Notre Dame at number 10, 6-2 right now. We talked about their losses. If you want to call them, like Miami kind of dinged it up a little bit, but week 1 lost to Miami by 3. Week 2 lost by Texas A&M by 4. Their 2 losses are combined by a combined 4 points. But since then, they have just run roughshod on everybody. The only team that's really even been close was USC, a top 25 team, who they beat by 10. It was in Notre Dame.
See,
but that's as close
you're
as it
acting
got.
like they've had a really hard schedule, though. I mean, how is that compared to a Big Ten schedule or an SEC schedule?
Honestly, I think their schedule is a Big Ten schedule. I think you had Miami and Texas A&M. Let's put them on
All right,
par
so
with.
it's an ACC schedule,
Sure.
not a Big Ten schedule.
Sure. But again, I think part of this, and this is what we talked about with Indiana and Kurt Cignetti earlier, this is why Kurt Cignetti's going to hang 50s on everybody. Because when your schedule looks like your schedule looks, style points come into play. And I don't know that Notre Dame thought that Arkansas and Boise State and, Pitt and Syracuse were going to be as bad as they were when they booked them all. But as an independent, that's the risk you run. I think Notre Dame needs style points. Here's what I do know. If there is a 3-loss team coming into the playoffs as an at-large spot, and again, I said before the season started, I think that there is a chance that we get a 9-3 at-large team in the playoffs this year. I think it is a possibility. Notre Dame has the brand power to be that team. I don't know if they have the schedule to be that team. If they would have, let's say, beat Miami or beat Texas A&M, then I think brand power plus the quality wins may be enough to make them 9-3. But if they beat Miami or Texas A&M, I don't think they're 9-3. I think the absolute worst they would end up being will be 10-2 at that spot. So, Notre Dame probably has, of the teams that are a 2-loss team at this point in the season, I think Notre Dame probably has a little bit more runway in that the brand power is there. I think they have a little bit more leeway in that it's not like their schedule is, I was going to say immensely worse. It's not like it's worse at all than some of the 2-loss Big Ten teams we've talked about. I think they would have more runway because of the brand. That being said, I don't think there's much runway for Notre Dame either. I don't think they can lose another one. Texas is 7-2. Texas cannot win the SEC at this point. You've got 8-0 A&M, 7-1 Bama, 7-1 Georgia, 8-1 Ole Miss, and some of those teams are going to have a tiebreaker over Texas. Texas has to win out. Here's the problem for Texas. They're at number 5 Georgia. They've got a rivalry game against Arkansas, and then they're back home for Texas A&M, who is not afraid of playing on the road. Texas A&M went to Baton Rouge. Yes, you can blame Brian Kelly. Yes, you can say Brian Kelly's LSU team is bad, garbage, whatever. That's all true. That's still, even when LSU is bad, one of the most tough places to play college football, and they went in there and they smoked LSU. There's no path for the Texas Longhorns to be a playoff team. You're not winning at Georgia and against Arkansas in a rivalry game and against Texas A&M back-to-back. Not what I've seen so far. Not when you struggled on the road against Mississippi State and had to go to overtime to get them. So I think Texas is bumped. Oklahoma is a more interesting story. 7-2. Oklahoma is about halfway down the SEC rankings overall. I do not think there's a path to the SEC title game for them. However, they have number 4 Alabama. They have Mizzou. They have LSU. This feels real simple to me. If Oklahoma can beat Alabama, I think they can beat Mizzou on their 3rd quarterback, a true freshman, and I think they can beat LSU. This game, to me, is the eliminator for Oklahoma. If Oklahoma beats Alabama on the road in Tuscaloosa, Oklahoma is absolutely a playoff team. They will absolutely get enough of a bump. Alabama still likely will be, though they would have to win out, obviously. At that point, Oklahoma will be a playoff team. If they lose to Alabama this weekend, they're done. That's not an easy path. Utah. Let me tell you what's interesting about Utah. Utah is a team that has one ranked win. It was over number 21 Arizona State. That's an Arizona State team that also has another win over Texas Tech. They lost to BYU. They did beat, I'm not sorry, they have 2 ranked wins. I forgot that they beat Cincinnati this past weekend. They handed the Bearcats their only loss in conference, their 2nd loss overall. I think Utah is another team that, it's not an awful schedule. You lost to Texas Tech. It was not close is your biggest problem. If that was a closer game with Texas Tech, maybe a little bit better spot. You lost to BYU. Those are the 2 Big 12 playoff spots right now. You beat everybody else, but everybody else includes UCLA before they fired Deshaun Foster, Cal Poly, Wyoming, at West Virginia. Arizona State's probably your best win, and the win over Cincinnati, which, okay. I think Utah is a team that if they win out, Utah's got a half-decent chance to sneak in. The problem is there's just not a lot left ahead of them that if they win out, you're impressed by, right? You're at Baylor, and again, Baylor at 5-4 is not a bad team, but it's not a good team. It's not going to be, that's a quality win. You're versus Kansas State. Kansas State might be, and I haven't even considered them for this role. Kansas State might be the most disappointing team in college football this year. I thought Avery was going to lead them to a threat to win the Big 12. In fact, if I recall correctly, I believe I picked Kansas State to win the Big 12. Instead, Kansas State is not going to do that. They're 3-3 in conference, 4-5 overall. And then you're at the Rock-Chalk Jayhawks of Kansas, who are also 3-3. They're 5-4 overall. There's no more quality ahead of Utah. Utah can't lose another game, and they're going to need a lot of help because they're right there on that 1st or 2nd team out level. And to be honest with you, I don't think that there's enough firepower in the games left ahead of them to convince anybody that they should be bumped up a spot or 3, and they will need to be bumped up a spot, probably more like or 3, to get in. I think Utah might have cooked themselves with the losses that they took earlier in the season. Let's go to the Louisville Cardinal. Louisville is an interesting team at 7-1. Louisville right now is one of 6 teams that could theoretically be in the ACC championship game. Right now, Virginia and Georgia Tech hold the keys to the ACC title game. Georgia Tech is 5-1 in conference, so is Pittsburgh. Louisville, SMU, and Duke are all 4-1 in conference. There's a lot that can shape up here. Louisville has Cal at home. They have Clemson at home. They are at SMU, and then they are back home for Kentucky. Guys, I think Louisville's a playoff team. They're not losing to Cal. Based on what I saw Darian Mensah do to Clemson's passing defense this past week, I'm sorry, Clemson fans. I think you're taking an L when you go to Louisville in a couple of weeks. That's the 14th of November. SMU, when they beat Clemson, I think a lot of people looked and they went, oh, okay, like maybe I love Rhett Lashley, football dude. I love Rhett Lashley. Maybe this team is better than we thought. It's the worst passing defense in the ACC entirely. You don't think Jeff Brom and Miller Moss are going to be just like, licking the fingers to get after that one? Of course they are. And I mean, Kentucky's Kentucky. Kentucky, Bob Stoops' worst team so far, they're 3-5. Louisville should beat Kentucky. The only reason that I think Louisville isn't a playoff team at this point would be if they lose that game to Kentucky because it's a rivalry game, and that one is kind of weird. That one's a little odd. Georgia Tech, Virginia, probably going to the ACC title game. Louisville hanging on the outside. I think there's enough considered quality left there that they can make the argument. I think they will need a lot of help, but I think Louisville could slot in at number 11, maybe 12, depending on how the G5 shapes up. Vanderbilt now 3-2 in conference, 7-2 overall. Vanderbilt doesn't have any brand power or ratings power behind it to convince the committee, let us in if we're one of those teams that are knocking on the door right now. They have Auburn and Kentucky at home, Tennessee on the road. You know, again, Auburn's not a quality win. Kentucky's not a quality win. At Tennessee, because they're a top 25 team and because there are an in-state rivalry, I do think that there would be some consideration for the doors there. The worst thing that can happen, or that did happen to Vanderbilt, was that loss to Texas. The loss to Alabama, I think, can be completely and entirely rationalized as, okay, that's one of the best teams in the country. You lost on the road. Like, that's fine. We're not going to necessarily hold that one against you to the point that we believe it is going to keep you out. I do think Vandy would have to win out because I do not believe can go to the national champ or the Southeastern Conference championship game at this point. The only question there would be, is this team capable of putting up enough style points over Auburn, Kentucky, and winning on the road at Tennessee with enough style points that they could jump Louisville, who probably doesn't have the same quality of opponent down the stretch? The answer is a solid maybe, but it's going to take them doing something special. And I'll wrap with Georgia Tech. Listen, Georgia Tech wins, they're in. They're at Boston College, bad team, but they got 2 top 25 teams to end. They're home against Pitt. Again, not a threat, but quality win there. And then they got Georgia. Of all the teams that are kind of in this range, the team that could have the most impactful win to end the year is Georgia Tech. If they find a way at home to get by the Georgia Bulldogs, who are a top 5 team in the college football rankings, I think you have no choice at that spot but to elevate Georgia Tech way back up the list. Is there anybody? Would Vanderbilt over Tennessee be as impressive? No. Would Louisville over Kentucky be as impressive? No. Would Virginia be as impressive? No. At that point, I think some of those schools would have to win their conference champs to stay ahead of Georgia Tech. I really don't think Georgia Tech is dead. Miami doesn't have that ability behind them with Syracuse, NC State, Virginia Tech, and Pitt left. I don't think it matters if Miami wins out. I don't think they can get in. Tell you what we'll do. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We got a few more things that we need to get to on the show. We'll talk some NFL trade deadline reaction. We'll take a call or two as well. All of that coming up as we move towards the stellar conclusion of the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
You see.
All right, guys, quick read coming back. Stay right there for me. Texter said, Rob, bro. I actually said bro, not Rob. It's an anagram, you know.
Bruh.
Bro, we will only win one more game this year, and Dabo will get canned after the Coots beat us. End quote.
Loved how he was able to get in something derogatory in there before the end. We're in pain. Let me try to inflict someone else. But there's a difference, though. South Carolina didn't have the expectations that Clemson had. So
I didn't have the expectations. Certainly had expectations. I think that the thoughts that Dabo is getting fired are out of control. I've said a few times, like if Dabo's not coaching me next year, it's because Dabo said, screw this. I've had enough. I'm out. I don't want to do this anymore. People are starting to tell me how to run the program, and that's the one damn thing I'm not going to let happen. That being said, I could see that happening because I do think people are going to step in and be like, bro, institutional changes are needed. Wholesale changes are needed.
well, if you're Dabo and you're going to be fired, you're probably going, hey, fire me right now. Fire me right now. The job market is wide open. Whether you think he's qualified for someone's got to fill those spots that are open.
It's not qualified. I'll tell you, like I've had this take before. If I'm Florida, if I'm LSU, if I'm Penn State, like 6 years ago, it's an auto hire if Dabo Swinney leaves Clemson. It's not anymore because again, it is, even if you don't believe it's true, the overwhelming opinion, and Rick, hold the line, I'm coming to you as soon as I get this thought out. The overwhelming opinion in a spot like this is the reason that Clemson is where Clemson is, the reason we're even having this whole freaking conversation in the first place is because Dabo wants to run his program exclusively with full autonomy over it, full authority over it. And it is the decisions he makes with full autonomy and authority over his football program that are preventing the football program from reaching their expectations. And so if you're Florida, if you're Penn State, if you're LSU, and Dabo Swinney's available because he leaves Clemson, I'm not bringing him down because or at least not unless he says, like, I don't need to have complete. And do you think for a second that Dabo Swinney is going to be willing to take a job that straight as up tells him you don't get to do everything you want the way you want to do it? Like there's a set of protocols we expect you to follow. That's why he would be leaving Clemson.
Things don't always make sense. And he could very well go, okay, you just let me go. I'm going to go somewhere else and do everything I didn't do at Clemson. As far as all the stuff that they're complaining about.
Like, if he's willing to do that, why wouldn't he just do it here?
Because some people do things out of spite.
I mean, I guess. I don't know. Rick, kind enough to hang through the break. Let's get him on the air now. Rick, welcome back to the show, big dog. Good to have you.
I appreciate it. What else can they do with Clemson if they lose to Florida State, they lose to Louisville, and they lose to South Carolina? Doesn't that look really bad?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think maybe Florida State bought you a little bit of grace with a 42-7 win over Wake Forest, but like a 2-10 season last year, it certainly, even with the win over Wake last week, it doesn't fix that that's a bad football team. Look, I've already said, Rick, I don't know if they don't win another game or win every game. I think at the end of the year, what likely ends up happening is Graham Neff is going to go to Dabo Swinney, and he's going to say, things are going to change. This isn't a nepotism program anymore. All your former players that have never coached before, they got to go. All the, family members of athletic department employees that have never done anything like the jobs they're doing now, they all got to go. You are going to use the portal. You are going to help us advance NIL. And if you don't do those things, then yeah, we're going to have to talk about potential separation. I don't want it. You don't want it. So let's figure out how we're going to make these things happen. And I think that's probably true. Even if they do lose all four of those games, Rick, what I would say though is if they lose everything on the way out, save the cupcake game before South Carolina, if they were to lose all of the quality games, all the FBS level games before they wrap the season, I think what happens at that spot, Rick, is Dabo Swinney has to cash in all of his I won you two championship equity, right? I think he has to cash in all of the I won you two championships equity to say, you give me one more year, let me get it right, and we'll be back into the mix. And I think at that point, if he cashes that equity and he stays in, whether he makes those changes that I think Graham Neff wants or not, if he cashes in his equity, he stays one more year, and they stink out loud next year, then I think you get to the point where Clemson may say, thanks for everything. We're going to build a statue of you out front, but this isn't working anymore.
I want him gone. I'm a Clemson supporter. I want him gone. Okay. I think we could do better. He doesn't know how to coach in today's times. And that's all I'm going to say, and we'll hang up.
Rick, appreciate it, buddy. Good to talk to you. There's one more thought that I want to add to that. And the one more thought I want to add to that is this. You would become one of as many as 14 Power 4 teams.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, where would, if that job comes open, where does the Clemson job rank with all the ones that are available right now?
Upper middle of the pack. It's behind LSU. It's behind Penn State. I kind of have to say it's behind Florida, right? And I think right around in that range. I think Clemson, I think Auburn, trying to think of who else. That might be tier 2 is Clemson and Auburn. I think those schools are very similar to each other. And what I mean by that is when those schools are good, they're elite jobs, right? Like LSU can be bad for 3, 4, 5 years, and it's still an elite job. Florida has been bad for 4, 5, 6 years, and it's still an elite job. Clemson and Auburn are in this kind of secondary range of schools. I don't say secondary isn't like worse than something. I mean secondary like in a different class. I think Clemson and Auburn are in the secondary group of schools, this different group of schools. And I think that those schools are, when this team is good, they're elite jobs. I think succeeding at those schools it's important at every job of the schools we're talking about, but it might be more important at those schools. And it might be more important at those schools because the fan base buys in when you are good. And I've mentioned this a number of times. It was brought to my attention when I moved here, coming up on 6 years ago. I got told by a lot of people, like in and out of the radio station, or I'll say cluster, not this station in particular, but inside and outside of the cluster. I got told by a number of people that you better hope Clemson is good, because when Clemson is bad, Clemson fans disappear. And I don't know that I am willing to commit, even anecdotally, to I've experienced that to be true or I've experienced that to be false. What I will say is, I do not think that to the level that they do at Alabama, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Michigan, Georgia, Florida. I think, and for the record, I think Auburn's in this group. I think Clemson's in this group. I think now, this probably wasn't true 10 years ago, but I think now Florida State's in this group. There's a secondary, Penn State's in the first group. There's a secondary group of schools that when the team is good, it is an elite job. When you have the team competing for championships, it is an elite job. But the minute that you are not competitive for championships, it's just a really good job. I think Auburn right now is just a really good job. I think it's a good job. I think they got boosters. I think they got money. They've got resources. They're in a good conference. They've got conference money coming in. It's a good job. Now, when Auburn had Cam Newton and Gus Malzahn, and when Auburn was a damn good team, I think Auburn was an elite job. I think that Florida can be bad for a few years. LSU can be bad for a few years. It's still elite. The boosters don't go anywhere. The resources then, now maybe after 6, 7, 8, 9 years, they might drop off, right? That's where Florida State is right now. After the 2013 title, Florida State hit a brick wall. And it's got to the point now where their fan base has dropped off. They're just like, they're not into it anymore. Like, call me when I'm good again. There is one reason and one reason alone that if Clemson came to Dabo and said, look, man, you're going to make these changes. The Nepo hires are out the door. You're going to embrace the portal, and you're going to embrace NIL, and you're going to do these things, or you don't work here anymore. If there was a reason that Dabo said, I'm out, and he went somewhere else and embraced those changes, the only reason would be because if I go do it at LSU or I go do it at Florida, I have to do it either way. I might as well go do it at a place that has all the money and all the resources, all the amenities, all the facilities. I might as well, if I've got to do a job that I hate, I might as well go do it in an office that has a ping pong table and a bar. not at a place that I not only hate the job, but like I hate the office the job is in too. There's a difference. So we'll see. Texas said South Carolina 100% had high expectations. Everyone was talking about how they would be 9-3 or 10-2. Now about to be 3-9, which is hilarious. Not if you're them, but I get what you're saying. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate.
I think high expectations are national championship. We're back, baby, and all that stuff that we heard. That's what I,
For Clemson?
yeah,
100%.
yeah. It's disappointing either way, but I think it's more disappointing for Clemson.
All right, dudes and dudes, that's the last break. Stay right there. The Rob Brown Show back on the Fan Upstate. This is getting worse.
I don't care that you're not feeling well because I'm not feeling well either. It's 1-1.
Yeah, 1-1. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Nicole Arbach writes college color. Now it's impacting my brain. Nicole Arbach covers college football for NBC Sports. There we go. I can do it. I'm a pro, baby. She has an article that went up on NBC Sports as a reaction to the release of last night's college football playoffs. She writes, and I won't read the whole thing, but I'll read the important parts. There weren't a ton of surprises with the College Football Playoff Selection Committee's first in-season set of rankings. The top 10 teams matched the AP top 25, and the only hand-wringing about the current 12-team CFP bracket came in the ordering of the teams seeded 6 through 10. Oregon was a few spots lower than it has been in the AP poll, which was defensible because the Ducks have just one win over a team with a 500 or better record. That's Northwestern. Otherwise, everything that happened Tuesday night was about as expected. Ohio State was the committee's top team, followed by Indiana, Texas A&M, and Alabama, just as the AP poll had it. The bottom of the 12-team bracket also mirrored our expectations, with Virginia and Memphis sneaking into the fold as automatic qualifiers for the ACC and American, the highest-ranked Group of 5 conference champion. Neither team would have made the field as an at-large, but the 5 highest-ranked conference champions make the bracket, and so Texas and Oklahoma were bumped out in favor of the AQs. It wasn't worth getting worked up over, especially considering how many meaningful SEC games there are still to play. But there were also, and this is where it gets interesting to me, there were also some serious red flags raised, ones we can't ignore over the final few weeks of the season. Based on the comments made by first-year CFP Selection Committee Chair Mack Rhodes, it was clear that subjectivity ruled the day. Another way to put it, it was all about vibes. It was the eye test. It was whatever the committee wanted to do and could justify by saying there were a few former college football coaches who watched these teams and the entire selection committee could rely on their film evaluation. Seriously, Rhodes said multiple times that Ohio State had better offensive line play than Indiana. That was one of the main reasons the Buckeyes were ranked ahead of the Hoosiers, apparently, even though both were unbeaten and Indiana had a better win on its resume, but I digress. Rhodes said Tuesday night, quote, "We refer to it as art and science. The art is watching the team on film and tape and how good they are, how physical they are up front, offensive line, defensive line play, how good they are up the middle, their quarterback play, their skill players, and then certainly contemplating and looking at metrics. Not any one metric weighted heavier than the other. We use all of them at our disposal to try to get the very best answer, and I think that's where the public misses out a little bit. Just the beauty in this actual debate and discussion and conversation in the room when we're talking about all of those metrics." Arbach responded to that with, and I quote, "Okay, so vibes it is." She goes on to effectively say that they want data. They prefer more data. In fact, in the tweet that she put up a few minutes ago to put her article onto social media, she said in the tweet, quote, "The first CFP rankings were fine, but I'm worried. The new committee chair keeps talking about what the coaches in the room say on tape when asked legit questions about comparing teams. It cannot all be about the eye test. Give us data, not vibes." Now, I would like to point out that it has become kind of almost a gimmick on this show, though it's not a gimmick to me. It has become almost a gimmick to me to say when I'm going to make a decision or if I am forming an opinion or a belief. I do my absolute best. I do not always succeed, but I do my absolute best regularly to try to have all of the available and most accurate data and evidence at my fingertips to make that decision. In fact, I regularly tell folks, you should not have a belief that is not based on evidence, data, and information. It is better to say, I don't know. I don't know.
So you don't believe in faith, but that's fine.
Correct. That is exactly correct. I do not. Because faith is not a valid pathway to truth. Faith and truth do not necessarily coincide. Tell me anything that I could not believe just on faith. Faith being, by definition, belief without evidence. That is the definition of it. So if I was to say, I have faith that if Marshall played Ohio State this weekend, they'd win that football game. I have that belief on faith. I have nothing to back it up at all. There is zero evidence. And I would probably end up finding out via a swift kick to the bank account that my faith was misguided and misplaced. I could say that I have faith that if I was to walk across Woodruff Road at 5:30 in the afternoon during rush hour, I wouldn't be hit by a car. Is faith? Sure. Statistically speaking, no, I'm probably getting plowed by a vehicle and my faith would be misguided. So when you arrive at a
What if
decision,
you have faith that the show is going to be good today? I mean, you can have everything, all your ducks in a row, all your information, everything, and it's not a guarantee of a good show.
it's absolutely not. But what I do have is 17 years of experience of doing good shows. What I do have is 3 Crystal trophies.
Do you have
that say,
faith? Do you have faith in people?
if they give me a reason to. Faith to me, I have belief in people. I have faith in people from the standpoint of I would rather there are times and places where I would rather be disappointed than be pessimistic all the time, right? But I feel like belief in people is much like respect. Do you have it from me just because you exist? No. I have faith that people will do the right thing. But I think we've got a pretty wide scope of proof that, like, with great regularity, people won't do the right thing, right? Like we have entire TV shows that prove
You
that.
have mentioned many times that I'm the most optimistic person that you know. And that comes from faith. I mean, I may be about ready to kill over, but I'm happy. I'm alive. I mean, we're having a good time. We have one of the best jobs it is the best job I've ever had.
Yeah, but that's gratitude in things that you have. That's gratitude. There's a difference. And I know we're kind of nitpicking and picking hairs here to get to the point that I ultimately want to make here. But
that's what old people do. They pick hairs.
I get it. I've started to. The point that I'm making here is I understand what Nicole Auerbach is saying. She is saying that she would prefer for the selection committee to use empirical data and empirical evidence to seed the teams where they need to go. And for the record, I agree. However, I just come to the reality that that's probably not possible.
Has there ever been a way that college football has chosen their top teams that you were like, that's how it needs to be done?
No, and there's never going to be.
Right.
So this is what I'm saying. I, for the record, would very much prefer that the driving force behind college football's playoff rankings are numbers. But again, there is no way. Like, there come time and places in your life where you have to recognize that you can have every available bit of information out there. But the only way to learn the objective truth is to just go through it and see what happens. So that's experimentation.
Would you say the best stat is victory?
Not necessarily.
So a team could have all the best stats, lead everything, and another team could have more victories and therefore should be ahead of them.
If Memphis goes through the Athletic Conference 12-0 and Ohio State goes through the Big Ten 9-3, which of those two teams is a better football team?
I think we know that, and it's because of eye test.
That's right.
So
that's what I'm getting to.
But stats don't have anything to. I mean, they will pad your how you look at
wait
something.
a minute. I'm also not just talking about like stats in terms of, well, their quarterback did this and their running back did this and the one. I think that should be a part of it. I also think there is a way, I think, to measure what beating a team at home versus on the road means and how much more difficulty there is playing at a stadium versus at home. Indiana's win at Autzen Stadium is a more impressive win than Ohio State's win at Wisconsin. It's just it's just objectively a more impressive win. But the reality is and this is ultimately the driving point here. I wish that there was an objective way, like there is in the NFL. Nobody complains about this in the NFL because coming in, there is an objective way we see the playoffs. The 8 division winners are going in. There's wild card winners on both sides. The 1 seed gets the bye. That's how we're shaping this thing up. 3 wild cards, 3 division winners. The number 1 seed gets a bye. Off we go. We don't have that in college football. The only way that we can do it is to look at teams and come up with as much data as we have. But at the same time, there is some level of every team has played 12 games. A lot of teams will have played 13 games. I can look at the metrics in the data and say, this team I believe is here and this team I believe is here. There is always, Nicole, going to be some level of looking at a team and going, that's a damn good football team. I came into the year, that is how we do stuff at the beginning of the year. I came into the year going, eye test, I believe the Indiana Hoosiers are going to be good. I can look at the stats and metrics from last year, take the guys that are coming back from this year, take what Kurt Signetti has done, and all these numbers say they're in the right direction. But I also look at this team, and it just looks like a good football team. And then by week 6 or 7, I got a little bit better evidence. Well, they've got these wins, and they've got these numbers, but also they're dropping 50s and 60s on teams. And I am in full agreement with Nicole Auerbach. But the reality that everyone needs to get on board with is there is no way to objectively determine this, which means there is always going to be an element of, to use her word, not mine, vibes that determine who's in and who's out.
And now the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter.
Definitely describes this show. We be vibing all the time.
Vibes, bro.
All right. The first thing that is Xing is Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz.
So they're both in that new movie, correct? Right? So there's a new movie coming out. I believe it's called Step Family.
I think you're overthinking it.
Is it the birthday?
No.
Are they together?
What is it?
The Mummy.
Yes.
Greatest movie, one of the greatest movies of all time.
All right.
Is it like the anniversary of The Mummy?
No, they're getting ready to do another one.
Bleep yes.
Okay. And
hell yes.
If you remember part 3, she refused to do the movie because she would have an older son. This is supposedly, and it would make her look older. And she wasn't that old at the time. Now she is. And she still is a wonderful looking person.
I think that's a wonderful take. I also think that it would have been fair to look at that movie and say, no, we're good. We've done enough. Because The Mummy 3, if I recall correctly, that was the one that was
the Yetis. And
yeah, it was the dragon.
Yeah. They went
king emperor.
They went up north.
Yeah. Which, like, at that
Himalayas,
point,
that's what I was trying.
Listen, 2 things happened to that franchise, because I will say to this point, you know, we always talk about our list of movies that like hold up, and I watch The Mummy every time it's on. The Mummy's a great movie. It's a great movie, and Brendan Fraser is amazing in that movie. Rachel Weisz is an absolute smoke show and amazing in that movie. Then they went off the rails, and then it ended up with the CGI Scorpion King, which was trash.
I think 2 was better from a certain standpoint because you already knew the characters and you could see how they were developed even further. But after that, 3 was not that great.
The Mummy Returns was fine. The OG Mummy, I thought, I like the mystery. The OG Mummy of watching the Mummy go from the Mummy to being emo top was like such, and guys showing up and having their organs removed, like it was so good.
Good old Benny made it through the whole movie.
Yeah, and it was just a marked illustration of you can when you get to the point that we talked about this yesterday, where you try to milk every penny out of something, you leave it dry and wasted. By the way, congrats to Denny's for being absorbed by a private equity firm. So I hope you all enjoyed Denny's, because it will be trash in a year.
It takes a while to get to Denny's, so it doesn't affect me that much. All right, the next thing that's Xing is Joe Hendry.
Joe Hendry is Xing because, of course, we all believe in Joe Hendry today, yesterday, and we'll believe in Joe Hendry tomorrow. I did not catch what I assume is an appearance on NXT last night.
Yes, and you should watch that because it has to do with our guest at 10:30. So
research.
Yes.
Research.
Yeah, you should do that.
Here's what I'm going to say, and I've made this point over and over.
They've been having a problem with saying his name, and he appears. And
you say his name, he appears. So I will say this, and it's a full credit and compliment to Joe Hendry. He's a good wrestler. Is he a great wrestler? No, he's a really good wrestler. What's amazing about Joe Hendry is that he has created this gimmick, which is someone says his name and then he appears. But he's repeatedly come up with like more hilarious and creative ways to appear. And now every segment that I watch, I'm just waiting.
Yes.
Every segment. I'm just waiting for it to happen. When you want to know the mark of an all-time wrestler? When you can have me thinking about your role in the show and you're not even on the show.
All right. And the last thing that's Xing, speaking of full, is the moon.
The moon is Xing because, and I'm going to assume one of 2 things. Number 1, the moon was full and it was absolutely gorgeous last night. I stayed outside with the dogs an extra 10 minutes just enjoying it. Or number 2, Kim Kardashian has started an avalanche of jackasses who are rolling with the moon landing was fake stuff, who are now, and I've seen this at least 3 times in the last 24 hours, pulling very edited and selected clips of Buzz Aldrin and claiming, see, Buzz said we never went to the moon, which is not true because I've went and found every one of the actual speeches he gave where he says quite the opposite.
Okay, that's not why.
Okay, good.
Supermoon tonight.
Hell yeah.
So,
the moon was beautiful last night.
Yeah, so it's going to be even bigger tonight. So on our way in, tomorrow morning, we're going to get to see the biggest moon of the year.
Hey, look, I'm excited about it. Now, the supermoon is only it's like a fraction of a percentage bigger and brighter than the regular moon, but it is to some degree noticeable. This is a weird sense. I love the moon. Like, I'm fascinated by the fact that a 250,000 miles away from us, there's just this big ass rock that spins in circles around us. And if it's fascinating, if you're not fascinated by that, I don't know what would fascinate you. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for being here. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you didn't, it's your own fault. Don't worry. We're going to come back tomorrow. We're going to try harder. We got Fight Club, our interview with Chelsea Green we're going to do in half an hour. We've got plenty for you. So make sure you're here for the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate later.
This didn't work with the music. I'm just going to say. It was creepier yesterday.
Steven, have a good time down at Dirty Myrtle, buddy. Enjoy it. Peace, Austin. Thanks for coming by, brother.
If you play the Tiger Woods thing at Broadway at the Beach, which I didn't get to do because it was like 300 degrees outside, and it was like, yeah, I don't want to be holding metal out in this heat. But it's right at Broadway at the Beach. It's really cool. You should check that out. They have a bunch of new stores and stuff too if you like shopping. I don't like shopping. I like buying.
All right, dudes, we got a jet because we got to flip.
I'm not stoked. I'm nervous. I'm nervous, Austin. I'm shaking.
This is one of those times that everybody that I have talked to has said she's amazing. She's an absolute sweetheart. So like I'm ready. I'm excited. All right, but we do got a jet, so we can go get set up for that. We'll play it for you tomorrow. Thanks for being here. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Goodbye.